Hello, everyone. Many of my listeners know that we are in the midst of a major paradigm shift with respect to the narrative of history. Evidence continues to accumulate that the truth of our human past may be dramatically different than the textbook version that has dominated academic thinking for more than a century. Science and scholarship advance by a willingness to ask questions and to challenge entrenched dogmas. In the quest for alternative interpretations, we might sometimes be led astray down dead-end paths, and at other times inadvertently come upon evidence that opens whole new vistas of thought. I would request of you to emulate my approach to controversial material, to neither uncritically accept or impulsively reject on the basis that it may contradict prevailing narratives of history. Scott Wolter, a friend and fellow researcher that I recently interviewed, has presented a body of research that undoubtedly fits the definition of controversial. I make no claims as to the authenticity of this material, only that I do believe that Scott is a man of integrity who would not deliberately perpetrate a falsehood or knowingly promote a hoax. Some of the material presented by Scott in this interview does have independent support from other sources, some of which I will address in future podcasts. One factor that seems to set this material apart from the typical historical scholarship is that it bridges the realms of science, religion, and even politics. To partisans and true believers of whatever inclination, it will likely prove to be disconcerting. In the meantime, always remember the counsel of William Morris Davis, the founding father of geomorphology, who, in 1926, admonished his colleagues that what appears outrageous today may turn out to be mainstream tomorrow. So, keep an open mind.
All right. Randall.
Scott!
How are you, buddy?
Where did you... You just appeared. It just showed up.
This is the best way. Catch someone when they're off guard. You're going to get a genuine, honest response. Now, that's what I want from you.
You caught me off guard here. I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, how peaceful and quiet it is here this afternoon, and then here you are.
That shit's over, baby. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here's the deal. We just recently told everybody about the Yeshua Scroll that we found back in August of 2025. And so, seriously, what I would like to do here is I would like to share the scroll with you. I want to tell you about how we found it, how we decoded it, what it says, and then I want to get your feedback on some of the aspects of what it says.
That sounds like a good game plan to me.
Okay. Well, before we do that, however, you got to earn it. And the way you're going to earn it is with a little background information, a little context to help you understand what this thing is and how we got to this point.
How we got to this point is always valuable.
Okay. So, first off, let me just go back to the beginning because there's a piece that's very important that connects directly with the scroll and its contents. But it actually started at the very beginning when Don Rue, Bill Jackson, and some of their other friends were scuba diving off Bannerman Island looking for munitions that had been blown into the water that they could salvage and get money. This was back in 1968. Don went over to the east shore of the Hudson River where stuff got blown over to the shoreline, and he found a decorative ornament that was in the flower gardens of Mrs. Bannerman. And that got blown over to the shore. Don realized and he knew that Bill Jackson, his best friend's wife, Muriel, was also a gardener, so he gave these two ornaments to her.
These ornaments were in the river?
They were on the shore. They got blown, right on the shoreline of the river.
Okay, like you think they were deposited there like during a flood? Or?
No, the Francis Bannerman was an arms dealer.
Okay.
And so he started there on Bannerman Island sometime in the 1800s, right before the Civil War. Don't quote me on the exact dates, but I know he was selling munitions to both the North and the South. Became very wealthy. His son then was selling munitions to whoever would buy leading up to World War I.
Okay.
He died in 1916, and The family was fighting over the estate, is my understanding, and nobody took over the island, and it fell into disrepair. In 1918, there was an explosion of the stored munitions there.
On the island.
On the island, it got blown into the river. And,
okay,
so the island is closest to the East Bank. It's only about a quarter mile, if that, from the island to the eastern shore of the Hudson River. That's where Don was looking for artifacts and found these decorative ornaments.
Okay. So the decorative ornaments were on the island.
They were on the island, but they got blown off during the explosion.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, I think I got the picture now.
Okay.
So the westerly winds, is that what kind of moved?
Well,
were they on the bottom of the water?
No, they were on the shore.
They were on the shore.
He was walking along the shore. In fact, Janet and I interviewed him standing at that very spot. I said, "Where did you find this?" He took us right there. So it was.
So the munitions plant was on the island. It blew up, and these things ended up
on the shoreline.
On the shoreline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now remember, this explosion happened. They found this stuff in '68. That happened in '18. This is 50 years later.
So this stuff has been laying there all this time?
It's been laying there the whole time.
Okay.
So anyway, so he gives these to Bill Jackson's wife, Muriel, and she installed them in her own garden. In 1969, the following year, their 5-year-old son, Mark, is playing in the garden, and he grabs one of these ornaments, and it breaks off, and it hits the ground and breaks open. Inside, they found two things. One was this brass disc right here.
Can I hold it?
You sure can. Heavy.
That's dense.
It's very well. It's lined with lead on the inside.
Oh, well, no wonder it's. Yeah, that's amazing.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Now, what you do is you take a little pin, and then you pop this, and there's a little rod. I don't know if this will work or not, but
this little. That's the little release right there.
Yeah. And then you pop it. You push it. Yeah. Let's see if I can hit that. Yeah.
You were missing it by about a quarter-inch. There you go.
Oh, that thing's in there hard. We need to pop it. It's stuck in there pretty good. We don't need to open it right now. But anyway, this thing opens.
Okay.
And inside there were 4 metal inserts. And on one of the inserts was etched the word Ontiora. Ontiora. Have you heard that word before?
Yes. And don't ask me where. Yes, I have.
Well, actually, there's a town in upstate New York named Ontiora. But Ontiora is the old name for North America going back 2,000 years. And it was that word that was etched on one of the metal inserts inside of this that led Bill Jackson to go to France to meet with a friend of his boss's, Dan Spartan. His father served in World War II with a guy from France who was part of the French resistance. And after the war, he opened up a rare bookstore in France. Spartan gave Jackson the information. He went to this guy. He bought a Bible from Muriel, and he bought a booklet that was published in 1715 that basically was about Native American words in European languages. Native American word.
North America.
For North America. That's what they called North America. So in this book, it had 2 authors. One was Benvenuto, and the other was Rochefoucauld. Now, the Rochefoucauld name, you know what Roche means in French, right?
Rock.
It means rock.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, so what Jackson did is he traced the descendants of both authors. And he met with descendants of both of them.
Wait, who did this now?
Bill Jackson.
That's Bill Jackson.
Bill Jackson. The guy
now
whose
Bill
wife,
Jackson and Don Rue, were they were friends?
They were best friends.
Okay, they were best friends.
Best friends. They worked for the agency, and they lived in New York, and that's where they would go on weekends and do things like scuba dive in the river, looking for munitions and pawning it back in the Bronx, right?
Okay.
So the other author was Benvenuto, and he traced that descendant to Rome. And he was the one that had the Cremona document. Now, he found this guy in 1971. And what he did was he showed him the document. translated, and basically what that document talked about was a Templar mission that left
that would be the Knights of the Temple.
The Knights of the Temple.
Yeah.
In 1177, they left England, went to Denmark, and got the navigator that brought them over to North America. Her name was Altamara.
Altamara, the navigator that brought them over to North America.
She was indigenous. And the reason she knew how to get back is because she had come from there and ended up in the Danish court.
How did she end up there?
Well, because the Templars had been there before that. And that's why they went there, because they knew she was there. But somebody had to marry her in the fleet that he was in. Well, Lionel de Waldern, let's see, who was it? No, Ralph de Sudley. Ralph de Sudley was the leader of this expedition. They had 6 Templar Knights and 144 men and women on 6 ships that traveled from England to Denmark. They got Altamara there. Then they came over to North America. Ultimately, their goal was to travel to a place called the Temple of the Goddess in the Catskill Mountains, specifically on what is now called Hunter Mountain. This is up in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York. At the Temple of the Goddess were ancient biblical era scrolls from Europe that had been hidden in North America sometime before the 10th century. We don't know. Now, his mission was to go over there and recover those documents and bring them back to Europe. On the way there, they lost one of their ships when they were going around Newfoundland. And they hit rocks. They couldn't salvage it. They offloaded everything to the other 5 ships. They towed it out and scuttled it.
So that ship that was stranded up on land on the island. Is that right?
They limped to shore.
They
offloaded everything. Then they towed it out and they sunk it because they didn't want anyone to know that they were there. Of course, this is long before Columbus. So why would they worry, right? Well, because a lot of people were going there apparently. In any case, Jackson focused on that part of the document, and what he said was, if you will give me this piece, I want to verify this story, and then I'll come back. And that's what he did. So this notebook right here is Don's notebook. Remember, Don never married, never had a family. He was always available. So Bill Jackson would say, hey, Don, I want to go to Newfoundland. I want to go scuba diving, and I want you to go with me. And Don tells the story, and he says, and then he said the magic words, I'll pay.
Oh.
So they went up there with the idea of trying to locate a 12th century sunken Templar ship. And they found it.
Oh, they found it.
Now, in this book, I know, I can sense the skepticism. I was skeptical too. 3/24/71, 1971. BJ called, wants to go to Newfoundland this summer. Why? Misses to take kids to Ireland for relatives' magic works. He will pay.
So this is what's initiating this trip to go explore for this sunken Templar ship.
When Don did this, he had no idea what was going on. Bill never told him.
Okay. So this is Bill. This is Bill writing this.
No, this is Don.
This is Don. So Bill.
BJ is Bill Jackson.
Bill Jackson, and so Don is making a note that
he will pay.
He'll pay.
He'll pay.
Okay.
Okay. So then he takes copious notes about their trip. Okay. Mm-hmm. And here in black ink, 2010, LaValle Aviation and School there now. He's even making updates as things go along. Mm-hmm. But he talks about their whole trip in detail.
Mm-hmm.
With trawler, back to haul in fish nets, left side marina. We go out in Placentia Bay. First dive, 9:45 a.m., water temp 40 to 44 degrees, wetsuits, full head masks, and he lists the whole thing. Second dive, third dive, fourth dive, fifth dive. Uses device he saw a picture of in book. What book? Looks like boat, horn, picks points on shore. So he's triangulating. And actually we have a map in the Cremona document of the triangulation of where the ship went down. So then they started pulling up pieces of the ship. This is the mast. This is part of the deck. There was a brass strap around a stone right here. We have pictures of that stone. They found 3 wood pieces, ship's keel. See diagram below. There's a diagram of the ship's keel. See that?
How deep was it?
About 30, 35 feet. It wasn't very deep.
Okay.
There's the strap. These are carvings that were on the stone. That's Tanit, the ancient Phoenician goddess Tanit. And actually, with her arms up like that, it's Virgo.
Oh.
And that's the 5-petaled rose. That's a symbol of the Magdalene tradition. Bill is happy. No Muriel complaints now. Bill says he thinks the top stone design is something called a Tanit, ancient seafaring goddess, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. And he's got all these notes. Then they went over to Newfoundland. They found some more stuff. They found this stone, and there was an artifact under that because the document told them where to go. So anyway, the long story short, here they keep going. Slept well. Tiring trip. Mosquitoes ate well, though most of our time was on the water or in the car. Bill told me the doc he is translating, the one he got in Italy, told of a voyage to America in 1177, 78, 79, question mark. Shipwreck near where we found mast and keel, told of a rescue from sister ship on land, visible from sinking Newfoundland. The survivor left sign of their being there under ancient anchor stone. He got the brass bar under on pistol. I'm skeptical.
The anchor stone.
That's this round stone that was on.
And it has
Prince
a hole
Edward.
in it?
It's a big. I've got pictures of it in here. They took pictures. It's like it looks like a mill grinding stone.
Yeah.
But it's thinner. It's not quite. They're usually pretty thick. It's more like that. But it was on the shore, and they flipped it over, and he found what was the token that was left underneath it.
Okay.
Here's another drawing of part of the ship, or of the mast. And there's more in this book later that has to do with some of his missions. These are some coded alphabets. Some of this stuff I know he'd be pissed. Vatican restorationist Luigi Famiglia sold BJ 3 documents, 1979, 1980, 1981, encrypted anagrams per Dr. Arthur Elkin, 1982. So he bought more stuff afterwards. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So he goes to Newfoundland. They find the ship that's talked about in the document. That proved to Jackson that the story was true. He goes back to Rome to meet with Benvenuto and purchase the document. That's how he got the document. So we'll come back to the document later, but that's how he got it. So he got it in 1971.
Okay.
This was inside the ornament, but there was something else that was inside the ornament that is germane to why I'm here today. It was a clay tube about 4 inches long. That's how they described it, with an inch in diameter that was sealed in beeswax on both sides. When they opened it, inside were 2 lambskin parchments. This is one of them. Now, the reason we have photographs is because Bill Jackson took photographs of them, but he sold this to the Vatican eventually in 1994. So we don't have these. Do you see the wax seal down here? This is Theban script. That is the ancient script that the Templars would typically use. Theban. Theban.
Yeah.
And this is the other one. So we also have documentation from Bill Jackson's estate that he gave to Don when Mark Jackson, in 2004, he's now an adult, signed an agreement with Don to turn over all of his dad's research. And in that research were a series of corresponding letters back and forth between the cryptographer that was in the agency with Bill and Don and Dan, a guy named Dave Ryan. He was the cryptographer and the computer expert, right?
Okay.
And he was the one that was able, with the help of a guy he was corresponding with in Portugal. This is a one-to-one letter substitution. Each of these symbols represents a letter.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to convert it, into, Roman letters.
Uh-huh.
And then one of them it's the same message twice. One in French, one in Portuguese. That's why he was corresponding with the guy from Portugal. Mm-hmm. And they eventually translated, after they decoded it, into English. And I want to read to you what it says. Okay? Now, this is heretical, and this document is something that the Vatican would definitely want to have. And they bought it, and they paid a lot of money for it from Bill. But here's what it says. And Misha, the daughter of Elizabeth, sister of John the Baptist, of the river Jordan, took the red wine with the poppy in it, having been there for 7 days, and gave it to the soldiers, saying, a gift from the Arimathian, Joseph, who I think was Jesus' cousin, right?
Uncle, I believe.
Or uncle? Okay.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Don't quote me, because I'm not a biblical expert by any means.
I think some scholars have said he could have been his uncle.
Okay.
But I don't know if everybody agrees with that. Or
Then came Ishmael, the brother of Benjamin and the Magdalea, Mary Magdalene.
Of course.
Now, what's interesting is I've talked to some biblical scholars, and they've said they didn't know that Mary Magdalene, they didn't know the name of her family members, her siblings. And this names 2 of them, Ishmael and Benjamin. I don't know if that's true or not. We would have to have a biblical scholar verify that, but apparently these are new names.
Uh-huh.
The soldiers are asleep. They drugged them with poppy.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
Took the wine with the poppy in it, gave it to the soldiers. Now they're sleeping, so they drugged him. They took him out and put him on a stretcher. Him. You know who this is?
I can guess.
Yep. She said, fold the head cloth alone. We lift up Jesus and took him to sleep with his ancestors, but Ishmael with his new beard stayed. So they subbed him out. Apparently. We have destroyed all trace of our being here. We are unclean. We fled Jerusalem, and all of Judea was against us. We fled to the north, always Thendra. Now, we fled to the north will come into play in some documents we're going to show you in a little bit.
All right.
We think the north is France, and ultimately they went to Scotland. So that would be beyond the reach of the Romans at that time. So I don't know who Thendra is. It says always Thendra. But this basically says that they took Jesus out of the tomb, substituted somebody else. So when the soldiers woke up, they probably went, oh, shit.
Uh-huh.
We're fucked. Yeah, this is him. This is him right here. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that would make sense. So,
Something like that. But normally when you say, and again, I don't want to come across as an expert because I don't know this for sure. But if you are unclean as a Jew at that time, isn't that because you're handling a dead body? Or what you think is a dead body? Hold that thought. Okay? That's a very important thing I just said. When we get to the scroll, now you'll know why I said it. Okay, so I think the next best thing is there's a whole bunch of things that have happened over the course of since 2017. And essentially what's happened is Don worked with a bunch of people in this agency that Bill was a part of and Spartan was a part of. They took blood oaths. And during COVID, Don shared over 500 pages of reports, agency reports. Every page has top secret at the top. They were working for our government. They were hired to do certain missions for our government by military generals. That's who they were getting their orders from. A lot of trafficking stuff, a lot of getting bad guys in compromising positions, very much like Jeffrey Epstein, using women in sexual scenarios to get people compromised. They killed people, and some of those people killed them. So this was not kidding around stuff that Don and Bill were involved in. But when I read these reports, I came away feeling like these guys are American heroes. They knew when they took on this work, they were going to be paid for it. They never expected any gratitude or recognition. They just did their jobs. And I feel privileged, frankly, to have this information shared with us to the personal level that Don has shared it with us. So I want to be respectful of his work, but I want people to understand what he was doing and what Bill was doing. So in 1994, Bill realized as a medical doctor that he was dying of arterial sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. And so he knew he didn't have long on this earth.
Okay.
And so that's when he sold the document. Now, when we first found out about that, we were very upset. Like, what? The Vatican, really? That's the last place that we would have wanted him to do that. But we also found out in 2013, when one of his colleagues in the agency realized that Bill had given him some rolls of 35 millimeter film that had not yet been developed. That colleague asked Don if he wanted that film, and Don said, well, of course I do. And he developed it. And it was pictures that Bill Jackson had taken of everything he sold to the Vatican. So we have it all.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't know that. Then in 2017, people in the agency that he worked with started to pass away. And then he would get messages from the executors of their estates saying, this person has something for you. And when Don would get those calls, he would call Janet and I, and we'd say, don't open it. And we'd jump in the car, we would drive to New York, and we would open it with him and record all this.
Okay.
And there were always letters in there. And the letters were from the decedent talking about, Bill gave me this, and he wanted me to give this to you upon my death.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these documents I'm going to share with you are those people who passed and what they left for Don. And over the past, since 2017, I would say 7 or 8 people have died, including the most recent one in June of 2025, when Don called me literally as I was speaking at the Cosmic Summit.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was, because when I got off, I looked at my phone and Don had called. So anyway, so I just want to give you the context, and I can't remember who exactly left what. It'll probably come to me, but it may not. So I think the next thing I want to show you, this is kind of a cool page right here, because this is drawings of the underground project, as they call it. It's in French here.
Souterrain.
At Oak Island.
No, really?
So this is the tunnel system under Oak Island.
Put all this together.
And frankly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but there's something else on this page.
Well, I think maybe we should duplicate this out in my backyard.
Okay. Now, you ready for this?
Well,
did you see the movie National Treasure?
Long time ago.
Do you remember when they had the Declaration of Independence and they put lemon juice on it and then they heated it up and they got a hidden message?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah. I kind of remember that now, yeah.
They did the exact same thing with a bunch of these documents. And at one point, they were using lemon juice and heat, but one of the maps that they had burned up. And they were taking pictures as they were heating it up to catch what would light up. Because once it cools down, then it disappears again. And they were heating it up with a hairdryer, and it ignited, and they have pictures of it in flames.
Now, this is Bill?
Bill Jackson and whoever he was working with at that time.
Okay.
Probably Dave Ryan. Okay, you ready for this? Flip it over.
Okay. Oh, interesting. There's a map, it looks like.
Look at the top.
This.
Read it out loud.
The skull of Yeshua. The skull of Yeshua. What? So this is a map showing where the skull of Yeshua.
Yep.
Is that this? That's okay. That's the implication here.
Are you okay, brother? Are you okay?
That's
Honestly,
interesting. Now that is very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So we didn't know about this. Don had this page for quite a while before he ever put the black light on it. Then he calls us, says, Scott, those page with the mechanisms? I said, yeah, there's invisible message there. And you have to understand, Don, I can't not do his voice. I just can't, I can't do it. I can't not do it.
Okay.
But you have to understand, Don is basically a born-again Christian. He's struggling with all of this. There's a part of him that struggles, and there's a part of him that can separate it very easily and just get down to business. And that's what we've done. So let me explain to you, flip it over, and I'll explain to you a little bit what's going on. Okay. So this is an island.
Yes, that's what I would have inferred.
And this is another island. No, this is the lake. These are the islands. This is pointing to an island that we have been on. And this is measurements. I'm not sure that scale. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it. But I know where this island is, and I know where this one is. And actually, that island is right next to that one. And we will see more, okay? So I just want to show you that. Now, not only is there a scroll, but there is a skull. Now, let's just unpack this for a sec, okay? If you recall, in my book, Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers, I know you read it cover to cover, you have it memorized, I'm sure. At the very end, one of the things I talk about is the Talpiot tomb.
And that's where the 7 individuals?
Where there were 10 individuals, 10 ossuaries, 7 inscribed with names. Yes.
That's what okay. 7 inscribed with names, yeah.
6 in Aramaic, 1 in Greek. And the names are Yeshua, Jesus, son of Joseph. James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus.
Yeah.
Joseph, Matthew, Maria, Judah, son of Jesus. Those are the 6 names inscribed in Aramaic, and they're scratched right on the side of the boxes. We've looked at them. We've seen them. And then the 7th one is in Greek, says Mariamne the Mara. The Mara is a title of honor, as in Lord, Master, or Queen.
Okay.
And of the 4,000 or so ossuaries that have been discovered in Jerusalem that are in the Israeli Antiquities Archives, only 6 have that title, the Mara. 3 are male. This is the 3rd one that's female, which is interesting. So apparently, in this tomb that was discovered in 1980, you have Jesus, his wife Mary Magdalene, and their son Judah, together with other family members, and who knows who the other 3 are that are not inscribed with names. So I wrote about this in great detail because there's a number of symbolic aspects to this, and actual things, factual things that are quite interesting from a geological standpoint. Now, a 1st century tomb, well, first of all, the ossuary culture was the Essene tradition. That was Jesus's people. And when the Romans attacked the Jews in Jerusalem in 70 AD or so, that practice ended. So when they find one of these tombs in Jerusalem, it dates to the 1st century and nowhere else, because it only existed for about 100 years. So we know this is the right time period. But what happened over the centuries is somebody entered that tomb in the historical past about 900 years ago. And what happened 900 years ago in Jerusalem?
Let me think. 900 years ago. What did happen in Jerusalem 900 years ago?
First Crusade.
Well, yeah, okay. I was about to say the Crusade.
Okay. And who fought in the First Crusade?
Well, I would believe the Templars.
The Templars. Mm-hmm. And they established their base of operations in Jerusalem, and they installed their first Grand Master, Hugh de Payens. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That was in 1118. Now, what I wrote about in the book, and I stand behind because I know it's true, is, the true purpose of the Templars' mission in Jerusalem was not to capture the Holy Land for Christendom, right? For the mm-hmm, church. Mm-hmm. It was to establish a base of operations in the region so they could go into Lebanon, go into Turkey, go into Egypt, and round up stuff that they knew was there waiting for them. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about documents, we're talking about treasure, we're talking about technology, we're talking about maps, remains of important people, mm-hmm. and that includes the Talpiot tomb. In fact, what they were looking for in the Talpiot tomb were the remains of their ancestors, both ideological and biological.
Was there a connection between the Templars and the Merovingians?
Of course.
Okay.
The vine of Mary, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Merovingian means. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, well.
So they took the bones. And what happened is 900 years ago when they went into the tomb to collect the bones of their ancestors, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't even know about the tomb. But the people that did, the archaeologists that did the collection, documented that all that was in these ossuaries were bone fragments and splinters. Mm-hmm. The main bones were gone because the Templars took them. And think about this. The Templars became immensely wealthy and powerful. And essentially, the popes really had no jurisdiction over them. They could do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And that begs the question, why did that happen? What was it that they had? What secrets did they know? What artifacts did they have? What remains did they have? Mm-hmm. The skull of Yeshua. If you've got the skull of Jesus, that's pretty powerful leverage over the church, isn't it? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So here we're seeing that the Templars had it, in addition to the skull of John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene. But I digress. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of context. Mm-hmm. So now I think we want to go to...
Quick question. Did the Templars bring these... They brought these back to France initially, I'm guessing. And then some would have been secreted out of France at some point.
Well, we know that one of the relics, probably the skull of John the Baptist, came over in 1307. Okay. And probably the skull of Yeshua, but they kept that very quiet. But we hear a lot about Yeshua in the later documents that came to Don. A lot.
Not to go off too much, but is it possible that the Templars could have stashed something at Rennes-le-Château?
Maybe on the way. Mm-hmm. Okay. We don't know exactly the details. It doesn't talk about the details of the movement of stuff, prior to 1307. Okay. Everything that we have is post 1307. And that actually makes sense because we have one document that tells us what the Grand Master ordered, what the plan was. Do you want me to read that one to you? Well,
I don't want to, whatever the narrative.
Well, I think it helps. Okay. It's going to help you with context.
Okay.
This one says, and this was message number 1 that came from Roberta. Roberta was a family member who was knew Bill Jackson, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
The power of God is within you. This is the final writing of this report, first done in 1308 and revised 3 times till 1908. So what the Templars were doing was updating their records every 150 years or so. Mm-hmm. The last update was done in 1908 by a guy by the name of Cleifas Licinius Jarbo. That's a pseudonym. That's not his real name. Mm-hmm. But so all these documents that you're seeing, I'm showing you, those were done in 1908 by one guy. The final putting of the relic is told here. The skull. In 1304, so remember how we talk about that the Templars knew that something was going to happen on October 13th of 1307? They were prepared. They knew as far back as 1304.
That Philippe was planning.
Something was going to happen.
Yeah.
In 1304, Louis de Gramord, by order of Grand Master Jacques de Molay, arranged for 3 ships to embark from La Rochelle to Locale of Ramsey and Pointe d'Air and Leith de Saddell. That's in the Isle of Man. Now, Saddle is an abbey in Western Scotland on one of the points there. And directly across the Firth, which is the bay, they call it a firth over in Scotland, there is a cave called King's Cave. And what's interesting about that cave, I've been to it a few times, the entrance is actually angled away from the shoreline. And the first time I went there, it's a 3.5-mile hike all the way around. You go to the caves, then you come back up. There was a sign, and I walk up and I see a picture of Robert the Bruce. And I'm like, Robert the Bruce, what the hell was he doing here? Robert the Bruce visited King's Caves 3 months before the put down. 3 months. Remember, he had already been excommunicated from the church. He was obviously at odds with the crown, so he didn't give a shit. And so it would have been perfect for the Templars to escape and go to Scotland. Now, later on, we find out in these same documents, or actually, no, in the Sinclair Weems journals that you read, that the Templars actually did serve at the Battle of Bannockburn and helped turn the battle over to the Scots, which was the greatest history in the history of Scotland. And obviously, Robert the Bruce is a hero. And the Templars then stayed. And the Scottish earls were obligated to protect them and help them for their service at Bannockburn until they could bring them over to North America, but that's another story. So what we're seeing here is it's telling us where those ships went. They went to Scotland. And we know where they hid the treasure. And it's just, it all connects perfectly.
They hid the treasure in the caves.
In the caves, yeah. But eventually they were moved to Kilwinning. And there's an abbey there, and there's a Masonic lodge there now. I visited, it's amazing. But the ruins of Kilwinning are still there, and there's all kinds of rumors of treasures being there and underground tunnels, and that happened. And then they eventually went to Weems Caves on the north side of the Firth of Forth. On the southern shore is where Edinburgh, Scotland is. So that's in Scotland. And directly above those caves is the Weems Castle. And they were the ones that were involved in bringing the treasures over. All this stuff fits together like a beautiful
Quick digression.
puzzle. Yeah.
Are you a golfer?
I like golf, but golf doesn't like me.
Ah. Well, the reason I asked is when I was interested in the origins of golf. And it traces back to the 1300s. The Firth of Forth was the first known golf game.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's golf courses there now.
Yeah.
Links courses, right? Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Well, it could be a connection there.
There could be. All right, so let me keep reading here.
Yeah.
With the pilot, navigator, Francisco de Leon, they embarked to Harris West Isle for designer, architect, Paolet Justinian Roche. So this goes all the way back to the 1300s. The Roche family just keeps showing up in this story all the time. Set sail March 21st for the Brethren in the Northland. That's Scotland. This is the account of the journey and the 300-year project to secure the relic now held by Lionel de Waldron III. Lionel de Waldron I was on that 1177 ship that came over to get the documents. So this is his descendant. 44 years old, aboard the Gaspard, also captained by Philippe d'Armand, with a crew of 56 and 1 chest of jewels and jewelry with the Relic. Philippe d'Armand, relative of Pierre in La Torre, that's the name of the ship, the Guardian is what that means in Italian, with a crew of 74 and 3 chests of gold and silver bars. He also carries Ibrahim Mohammed El Zakara, maker of structure. He's the one that designed this, and he's the one that oversaw construction of the Newport Tower.
Okay.
He was Muslim.
I love that.
Okay. Well, from the name, I would guess he was Muslim, yeah.
Well, do you think that the church would have a Muslim architect?
Yeah, good question. I mean, probably not out for public consumption, but maybe behind the scenes they were conferring with.
Well, this isn't behind the scenes. This is right up front.
Yeah.
The Templars would take any and all.
Any and all, right. Yeah,
Right.
That's right.
That's what Masonry does to this day. So that's an interesting point. Maker of structure, Captain Juan de Alvarez from Garda, Portugal, in La Valiant, that's the ship he was in, with chart maker Sotoman Jarbo, son of Lucinius, and a crew of 68 with 5 chests of gold and silver coin completes the trio. They arrive at the observatory,
And that sounds like it could be.
the Newport Tower,
Mm-hmm.
June 21st, and leave July 21st for the land of the Wasuda and the Mi'kmaq. So they went north up to Nova Scotia. That's where the Mi'kmaq. They say Mi'kmaq, but it's pronounced Mi'kmaq. That's how they pronounce their own name.
Okay.
So, so what we learned from that is that the relic, the skull, was brought to North America in 1307. So now this, or was brought to Scotland and then to America sometime after 1395. So at one point, about 3 years ago, Don called me and he said, I want you to come out here. I have something to show you, but I'm not going to show you until you're here in person.
Okay.
So I go out there, and then he says, we're going to go to this place. Remember that invisible map?
Yep.
We went to that place. And we took a float plane. And we flew in because there's no roads, there's no houses, there's no cabins. This is way up in the Adirondacks. You can hike in there, but you can't drive there. And so we rented a plane and we flew in. They dropped us off. The guy had canoes parked there, and we took the canoes and we paddled to this island. And then once the plane took off and left us, and we told him to come back in 5 hours, Don pulled this out of his and showed me that.
And this is a cross section. It's showing 18 inches deep
Yes.
to the bottom of the pit. It's showing 12 inches deep to a little, looks like a little notch or a terrace there that is
Stone.
a stone. That's a stone right there. Okay, so I'm not sure what this is. Okay.
See this?
Yeah.
See the arrow pointing to that?
Yeah.
We found that.
Well, that's pretty convincing, isn't it? So we have the what looks could be square and compass kind of a figure.
Yeah. Yeah. A hooked X.
Uh-huh.
And then a compass that makes a compass and square on the top of the hooked X. Now I'm showing you something we have not told the world yet. That symbol, we have trademarked what we call that.
Okay.
The hooked X covenant symbol.
Okay.
Because my interpretation of that symbol with the hooked X on the bottom is Templarism.
Mm-hmm.
The compass and square is what?
Masonry.
Freemasonry.
Freemasonry. Mm-hmm.
And what have people in our craft argued for centuries now?
Well, that there's a connection, a genetic connection, an affiliation of some kind going back. But the problem with that has always been that Freemasonry is only officially recognized as going back to 1717. Although we have some documentation, I believe, of Elias Ashmole, is that right?
Ashmole.
Being initiated or raised in the 1600s. But there's this gap.
Well,
There's a gap, right?
of documentation, right?
Of documentation between what is now the modern craft of Freemasonry and the Freemasons of the Middle Ages. So now what I'm getting from this is a major piece that closes that gap.
We have all kinds of documentation that talks about people being raised back in the 14th century.
In the 14th
14th century. So my interpretation of this symbol is that it represents the evolution of Templarism into modern Freemasonry. And when you read the Sinclair Weems journals, there's no question that that's what happened. And when you fully digest all of these documents, you'll come away with the same thing. Now, I'll just show you another one that happens to be on this page.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that's at the bottom of this encrypted message. Wait a minute. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, I see that. So let's look at
Is that crazy or what?
That's pretty crazy. Now, let's see. I'm trying to... Okay, so where's the hook on here? Is this...
Right here.
Oh, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
That's a
And
hook.
then that's what we're seeing right
there.
right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it.
It's the same thing. It's a hooked X and a compass and square with a circumpunct on the top, which is symbolic of many things, including the symbol for gold.
Right.
But it's all, there's all kinds of meanings for a circle with a dot in the middle.
Yes, there is.
So let's go back to this page.
Okay, this
All right.
page.
So Don broke it to me that we are looking for the skull of Yeshua, of Jesus. That's what we went looking for. And so this map here tells us the dimensions. Now, and so what we did is we paced this off and we went right in this area here. We started metal detecting and I got a hit. And we dug out this.
Is there any inscriptions of any kind on it?
I haven't seen anything except for lineal striations. That's a bullet.
I'm just saying, is it a bullet?
It's a bullet.
Yeah, it's a bullet.
And it's a .22 caliber bullet.
Okay. Whoops.
And then immediately below that, we found this.
That's where you found this.
Yes. Yeah. Now, there's something else.
And there, now I can clearly see the hook.
Yeah, you can see it now.
Yeah, right there.
So that was crazy, but no skull. So guess what? The skull was moved. Or it was found by Bill Jackson, because if you see this little thing right here, that's a button.
That's what that is.
A metal button, but we don't have the button here. We have it at home. We didn't bring that button. Why didn't we bring it? It's got an American eagle on it. It's not old, so we think Bill Jackson beat us to it, and he moved it. So we struck out on this, but we got the bullet. I think Jackson put this bullet there, and he left the stone because the stone was on top of the skull, according to this. And see, Bill Jackson made this map. So how would he know all these details unless he found it?
So he's showing here was buried 18 inches deep.
Yep.
That somebody dug a hole, and then this stone was placed on top of it, and then
with a button.
With a button.
So it could be located.
So Bill put the button there, you think?
No, I think the button was, he found the button.
He found the button.
Because we have the button. Don had it in his stuff. And look, Bill Jackson made this sketch. But we still went and looked anyway, and we found this. So I think this is Bill's calling card. And this is so appropriate for the agency he worked for. A bullet.
Sure. Wow.
In the metal detector.
Well, no, it was placed there so we could find it again. Yeah. But this is what Bill does.
I know.
So without going too much into the story, this is the second time Bill has left a calling card for us. The other time we found a treasure that included this little, and that's a legit
Well, that's a Templar cross.
cross, yeah,
Sure is.
with the 5 dots.
Yep, there it is with the 5.
And we found 23 Roman coins in this cache and 2 crosses. That's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's another cross. But we just brought the one. But you know what else we found that led us to that? This. Okay, geologist. I'm just going to let you look at this, and I want you to tell me what you see.
Okay. Well, it looks to me like a variation of the square and compass. It looks like possibly a hook. Is that possible?
I don't remember there being a hook on this one, but maybe. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, look at right
But
here.
it's not as deep. But
No.
I see
right
right
here,
right here.
right here.
I
Yeah,
see it.
right
Yeah.
there.
You know, I never noticed that before.
Well, get yourself a magnifying
Well,
glass.
Jesus, I'm sorry. No pun intended. Okay, there's something very telling about this stone. And this was at a different place, and this stone was underneath a big stone.
Okay.
But it looked out of place. And
Now-
Don,
This was on the island.
no, this is in a different spot. This has nothing to do with this place.
Okay.
It's not. This is a different place.
Different
but
place.
it's up in the Adirondacks.
Okay.
It's up there. A different place. Now, when I looked at this under the microscope, I noticed something. That was made with the Dremel.
This.
Yes. That symbol on there. And you notice how it has an arrow pointing?
Yeah.
So when this was in the ground, it was like this, and we followed it, and that's where we found the cache that had this cross and a bunch of other stuff.
Uh-huh.
So Bill Jackson beat us to that too. Bill left this. And he left the coins and he left the crosses. And whatever else we found, remember?
Bracelet.
The bracelet. Yep. And that was Bill. Yeah. So he's been to a lot of these places. We're walking in his footsteps in many cases, but not in all cases. Okay, so now let's keep going. This guy. Tell me what you see here.
Oh, well, now is this Theban? Or
Some of it is.
Some
yeah.
of it is. Okay, yeah, there's a mix of stuff here.
And you remember when I told you that we've decoded about 25 to 30 messages. I don't even know what the total is now. And everyone is done differently.
Uh-huh.
Even if it's in Theban, they'll put it in a different language, or it's never the same thing. And you'll see this is Theban, and then you get here, what the hell is this shit, right? This is a whole different alphabet using different symbols.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes it'll be all Theban, sometimes it's all that, sometimes it's a mixture. And then we have zodiac symbols. Every other line.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, these are symbol, yeah, and I mean, so that right there's symbol for Jupiter.
Well, yeah, but that's actually a letter. That's not a symbol for Jupiter. It is here. It's one of these, and then you
well, there's Venus.
There's Venus and Taurus.
Yeah.
Go like that. There's one. There's
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Yep. So this is using a zodiac code, and each one of these have to be put in line. And here's the cipher.
Telestai.
Teteleste. Do you know what that is?
Telestai. Yes, I should know what that is. Is it a shrine?
It's Greek.
Greek.
It's the last words that Jesus reportedly said
Right.
on the cross.
Okay, yeah.
Which means it is complete. It is done.
Yeah.
It is finished. That's a pretty cool cipher, isn't it?
Yeah.
So remember I told you we were talking about how you do these ciphers?
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you get a piece of paper and you put lines on it and you spell out teteleste.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you do is you go to the, A, no, B, no, C, no, D, no, E. And there's 4 E's, or what? 1, 2, 3, 3 E's.
Uh-huh.
So you take the first zodiac sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to the first E and you put it this way. Then you take the next one, you go to the second E, put that down, third E, and you go through the alphabet until they're all used up. Then you read it this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how you decode this stuff.
So we have what looks like could be Aries there. Cancer. This is Cancer right here, I'm guessing. Is that right?
I can't remember which one that is.
That's Cancer. Yeah.
Okay. Now keep in mind that Clyphus Licinius Jarbo was the guy that did the last update in 1908.
Okay.
He's the one that made all these codes. He did all this work and drew all the maps. So his job at one point was to go recover certain scrolls that were hidden at the temple and taken away in the 1600s. But as they were taking them up to Montreal, they diverted and dropped off the Book of the Wars of the Lord and the 8 Yeshua Scrolls. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Angel K was probably an alien, told CLY, Clyphus, the guy that did all this work, to go get the Book of the Wars of the Lord and give it back to him because the world was not ready for what was in there, and to recover the scrolls. That was his mission. This talks about that mission. Okay? Old man Derby has died. We don't know who the hell Derby is. And his people are good to his word. They meet us at the Sea of Reeds, take us in boats, 4 each, 40 feet long. We are across all in 2 trips. I think what they're doing is they're crossing the St. Lawrence to Montreal, what is now Montreal, the place of the Sulpicians, who were from France. Then by ox carts to the next river, a barge puts us on the new shore. We meet Olia's people. Kay says to me, hold back the Yeshua Scrolls. Choose one, burn the rest. I do so. I'll go with the Sulpicians. And then there's more to this message that's really not germane. It's coded information, and it's really not, it has to do with other stuff. But that's what this message is. So, of course, when you see a big open space like that, what do? Grab the black light. Nothing here. So, let's put that one away and move on to the next one. This guy. We didn't have this when we decoded this because these goofy letters are right here. And their numerical value and what the letter is. See the hooked X?
Yeah.
Veritas vas liberabit, which means the truth will set you free. Then on the back, we've got a message right here. And that one says, let all nations be gathered and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this and show us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses that they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is truth, and the truth will set them free. And of course, we got to do the same thing, right? We got a big open space right here.
Well, why don't you get the black light, Scott, and see if there's anything there.
You catch on quick, my friend. Holy cow. What?
That's okay.
Read it aloud.
The Yeshua Scroll is not at our lodge. We went back to the old land and laid it in the dirt where the bear eats the moon. It is a right bite. It is a right bite.
Talico.
Now,
I haven't told you this, but CLY was married to an indigenous woman.
Okay.
That is his Indian name. Talico is Mohawk for gray eagle.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Talico in a lot of these later messages. So,
well, the bear eats the moon. Could that be a astronomical reference?
well, let me show you what a certain female named Janet Wolter found.
I've heard of her.
Yeah.
see the bear?
Ampersand Lake. Ampersand Lake. It almost looks like it could be a very, very old impact scar with a...
Oh, impact crater.
Yeah, if you draw this, and then this would be the central uplift here.
There was another one.
Do you see the bear?
Right here.
Do you see his mouth is open?
His mouth is open. There's his eye. There's
It
his
is a
ear.
right bite. Which way is he facing?
Well, it looks like he's facing east.
To the right.
To the right, yeah.
And this you could interpret as a crescent moon, right? He's taking a bite out of the moon.
That's what I thought.
It is a right bite.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty convincing, right?
Adirondacks?
Adirondacks. But guess what? That's not it.
Oh.
I think...
Well, darn!
Well, I think it could have been there, though.
It may have been there in the past,
Yeah.
but that's not where it is now. So, that's a pretty good clue.
It's out in the back, in the bed of your pickup truck.
It is.
Right?
How'd you know that? How'd you know that?
I saw something under the tarp there. I was wondering what it was.
All right. So now we're going to get into some really good stuff.
Well, yeah.
Now, this came to us, and I just posted this picture of this guy on the internet, and I said, can somebody help me with this? In 5 minutes, somebody said, yeah, that's da-da-da-da-da, and it turns out that he was a very interesting character. And there's the picture.
Yeah, there it is.
John-
Yeah, check this out. Here we go.
Theophilus de Saglier is his name, and he was a very initiated brother.
Desaglia, yes, I've encountered his name before.
Okay, but what I want you to look at is look at the back of that picture. What does it say?
He knew the wear of the cup, but not the skulls. He knew the wear of the cup, but not the skull. Or skulls? Skulls. That's plural, right?
Yep.
Of the cup. As in the chalice? As in...
It's mentioned in other places.
Uh-huh.
But I don't want to go down that
Well,
rabbit hole.
who? Okay, so who wrote this on the back of this picture?
I'm assuming CLY did.
Saying
So
that
this guy,
Desaglia
this
knew.
guy's on the squad. He was on the squad in his time. So remember, we think the skulls came over around the late 14s, around 1400.
Okay.
So he would have lived, I think, in the 1700s. I can't remember now, but he knew he was he was on the squad. There's something else on that page, or in that little folder there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking. We got Mars. We've got Mercury there.
But they're modified.
Uh-huh.
They're slightly different.
Slightly different.
Okay. Now I'm going to read that to you. and then we're going to get real. This message is an abbreviation of this. So this one was hard to figure out. We didn't have a key, but you see that symbol right there? That looks like a Y, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just guessed and said, well, maybe that first word is Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
It was. So now we know what these 6 symbols are. And so we applied that to where they occur in the rest of the message, and we were able to figure out what the words were.
All right.
And each time we got a word, we get 1 or 2 more symbols, and then we would apply those, and eventually we got the whole message.
You had the whole
It was actually pretty good effort, I have to say. Okay, so here's the message. Now I want to preface this by telling you that something you already know, that when we did the work on the Kensington runestone, the most mysterious and puzzling symbol that was being used for the letter A was what I coined the hooked X. Mm-hmm. And obviously it was a symbol that scholars had never seen before, so that's a reason to say that it's fake. No, it just means you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
But I digress. As we went along, we tried to understand what we thought that symbol meant. And eventually we came up with the idea that it was a symbol for their true ideology of monotheistic dualism, the idea of a single deity that had dualistic aspects that were opposite, like male, female, heaven and earth, good, bad, light, dark, yin, yang, the concept of opposites that keep things in balance, right? And the symbol of an X, if you chop it in half, you have a peak at the bottom, which is the sword, the phallic, the symbol for the male. On top is the vessel, the chalice, the womb, the symbol for the female. Combined in an X represented that allegorical union, male, female, heaven and earth, dualism, right? And then the hook represents the child. In this case, a daughter inside the womb of her mother, representing what could be called the Holy Trinity, right? In Catholicism, they say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then I ask people, what's the Holy Spirit? And they go, well, it's the Spirit in you. They don't define it. It's not well defined.
Sure.
And then we come back and we say, we have the Father, we have the child, who's missing? Mama.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe that's what the Holy Trinity is. So I've been arguing for 20 years now, over 20 years, that the hooked X symbol represents the true ideology of the Templars and their ancestors, including Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and John the Baptist. That was the true religion that they were teaching. And I've been saying that for 20-something years. So when I got this message, when we got this decoded, well, I'll let it speak for itself.
Okay.
So I told you this was Yeshua, right?
Yeah.
Yeshua wanted a dual-gendered God religion. Yay! I read this and just about shit myself. Honestly. Gets better. Simon and the Roman Jews sold him out. He, his wife, and children preached in the Northland and of Scots. The Northland is Scotland.
Sure.
But only the temple of the goddess, the people that were guarding the temple, remember when de Sudley took the 6 ships to recover the scrolls? That's the temple of the goddess. That's in North America. Those people embrace this same ideology of a dual-gendered God religion. But only the temple of the goddess and the Kohen and my people listened. That's what this says.
And this, let's go back to the origin of this.
This came from Roberta.
Roberta is...
Okay, so we'll just be real, okay? So as people were dying over the years,
right,
they were all guys that were part of the agency that Don worked with, put their lives on the line with. and Bill Jackson too. Remember, Don and Bill are best friends their whole lives. When we found the treasure that had that and the stone that is with the Dremel tool, that was in a different place. I don't want to say that place because I don't want people going there.
Sure.
As we were walking out, and we had an amazing day. It was Janet and I and Don. And we crossed a little stream, and he got his feet wet. He said, I need to rest. And so we stopped, we sat down, and I took a selfie of Don and I. I use that in my presentation when I tell this story. And we were sitting there, and I looked at Don, and I said, Don, is there anybody left? Any of your colleagues that are still around that might have something? He said, well, McMasters is still living, but he and Bill Jackson didn't get along. He wouldn't have left him anything. And then he sat for a minute, and he looked at me and he goes, Bill had a girlfriend. And we know who she is. Not merely his wife. He had a girlfriend.
Okay.
And it turns out she got the best stuff. So 3 months after that, we found out that her code name was Iudea, which is really Judea, because they didn't have a J back then. They called it Judea. That was her code name. And she worked in the medical field. That's where he met her. Anyway, they were both physicians. She died 2 years prior to 3 years ago, so she's been dead for 5 years. But before she died, she gave all of the stuff that Bill had given her to her cousin, Roberta. All the stuff that you've seen, this latest stuff, came from Roberta. And when Don got to Roberta, she had just had a stroke. And she wrote a note. You can see her handwriting is really labored. And she basically said, I have the originals in the attic. When I get them, I'll give them to you. And that happened. So we have everything. And that was a lot of stuff. And it's all this stuff, including this stuff. And then we got the stuff. That was 2023. Yeah, 2023. And she died in August of that year. But we had gotten everything from her. And we've been decoding everything since, except for this last stuff. So we're having a party when we got this, right? I'm not a little bit happy about this. I'm to the moon. But this was just the warm-up band. And the warm-up band wasn't even that good compared to the main line, which is coming right now.
Well,
So flash forward to 6 months ago or 7 months ago, whatever it was, when you and I and Beckett and you and other people were at the Cosmic Summit 2025. I'm giving my presentation on the main stage, and I talked about this because we had just gotten that. And while I was speaking, somebody called me. Don Rue. Now, I didn't
while you were speaking.
Literally while I was speaking.
While you were up on stage.
But I had it on silent. The one time I didn't leave it on, right? So after my lecture and, I answered questions, whatever, I go to my phone. It was Don. So I called Don. Guess what he said? McMasters died, and he left him some stuff. He was wrong. Remember the guy that didn't get along with Bill?
Yeah.
He left him the best stuff.
Okay.
That stuff is that. So, that first group, tell me what you see.
I'm not familiar with the Theban alphabet.
That's all Theban.
That's all Theban.
It's all
and
Theban.
I see some Latin.
That's, yeah?
Yeah, some. So we've got MCM, so that's 1933.
Exactly.
And then we have down here, if that's 100, let's see, so 23, so 123, is that what this
No.
is? Let's see, what is this?
Oh, that's his sigla. Clipus Lucinius
Got it.
Jarbo.
Okay.
That's our guy.
Okay, so he's got his signature 23.
Right.
Right.
He's the 23rd. Here's what you have to understand. The name Cliffus Licinius Jarbo was a code name.
I got it.
So and these are the guys that updated the records over the centuries. Now, if you are the Templar record keeper and maker of maps where the treasures are hidden, there are certain people that probably want to have a conversation with you, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
So you're not going to use your real name.
Sure.
So that's the name that they use, and we know of at least 5 generations now. This is the 23rd, and on this, I think we have the 22nd. Yes. Jarbo, 22nd, with a hooked X. Now hold that map. Hold that map. We're not there yet. So that's, Cliffus did this. So this is the first little message. And here's what it says. Due to increased storms, the Order thinks the island not safe now. Captain Marchand will get scroll and bury it on mainland, 1933. So when I read this, the first thing I thought of was weather. Increased storms?
Uh-huh.
Well, stupid me, that's not what it was. And Jerry Lutkin was the one that first pointed out to me, said, Scott, I don't think it's weather. And I'm thinking, it's going to rain so bad it's going to drown the islands. The water level's going to... No. He said, I think they're referring to events leading up to World War II.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when I thought about it, I went, of course that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And that is what it is. Now, in talking to Brother Tim Hogan, he told us that, and I looked it up and he's correct, that in 1934, there was supposed to be a meeting of all the surviving Templar traditions in Europe. And they were going to consolidate everything that they had and get it out of Europe. That was called the Council of Fiducie, but it never happened because there was too much chaos going on with Hitler and the
Already
Germans.
by then, yeah.
And they just said, we're going to get out of here. And they came to the United States. So this is probably an outgrowth of that. Mm-hmm. So that's the first message. So the islands we're talking about are the Bear and the Moon. That's what he's referring to. And I'll show you why we know that's true in a little bit. Now, this second message says, Captain Marchand got scroll, repackaged it, rehides it. Trees are gone, stumps remain, moss covered. 1953. So they apparently didn't like the way it was packaged. And so they repackaged it. And now I understand why, and we'll get to that, okay? But then we always check everything now. So please indulge me and do the work.
Captain Marchand dies 1973.
Yep.
Exact location of scroll lost to us, hooked X.
With a hooked X.
So this would have been written by who? This, do we know?
Well, I think it was written by a descendant of Cliffus. Remember 22 and 23. This was done later because that's the 23rd. Cliffus the 23rd may have been his son or whoever the next guy was in charge of keeping records.
1973, huh?
So what do you think this message is?
Well, so Captain Marchand must have known precisely then where.
He's the one that repackaged it and reburied it, right?
So he passes away. We don't know why, but he dies in 1973.
Or it's a false flag.
Oh, okay.
Because if somebody gets a hold of this, they're telling you a lot of information. And this Captain Marchand guy, we might want to talk to him. Oh, you can't talk to him. He's dead. Well, maybe we get a hold of some of the people in the order. Oh, can't talk to them. They don't know where it is. This I almost called off the search because of that. And the fact that it's invisible, it must be even more important, right? It's a false flag. And the reason we know that is because we found it. This was the other thing that Marchand had, or not Marchand, McMaster's.
5 tree, dig 18 inches to 2 feet.
Yep.
Okay. 320 degrees, 138 minutes. We've got what looks to me like a lake. Scroll showing it's buried. Yeah, the scroll. Isle du. 138. The bear. Okay. Oh, right there. Moon, right? Is that moon?
Yep.
Let me see here.
Moon.
Okay, so the moon, 138 feet. This is a bear. C.S. Couvrement, 1933. Ave with Louis Marchand. And they and then this name 22.
22. So this map is older, I think, than this, but this tells us where they put it. So you see those 4 dots? Those are glacial boulders.
Those are the boulders.
Those are the boulders. They're like as big as this table. And they stand up between 3 to almost 5 feet tall.
Fairly prominently
Oh,
visible.
yeah. And they're right on the shore. You can't miss them. If you're paddling along, you can't miss them. And so you see the far right one?
The one on the far right looks like a line leading up. Well, yeah, it's
What is that line? What is that line?
138 feet.
138 feet.
From the shore, I'm guessing. And then
No, from the boulder.
From the boulder. Not the shore, the boulder.
Yep. The boulder's up maybe 40, 50 feet from the water line. From the water.
Okay. Of course, now the current water line could have varied.
Could have varied. That's why they used that rock's not going to vary, though.
Correct. Okay.
So, that is the same place where we went looking for the skull, that lake.
Okay.
But it was on the other island. There's 2 islands together. The round one that was in that first invisible message that said the skull of Yeshua. The scroll was buried on that island. Right next to it is the Moon Island, where we went looking for the skull.
Is that what it's known as, the Moon Island?
Well, that's what they call it because it looks like a crescent. You saw the picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a crescent. So they were right together, the skull and the scroll. The skull's been recovered. The scroll has been moved. And so we flew back in again on the same plane. Same guy flew us in. We got in canoes, went over here, got my phone out with my compass. I set 320 degrees and started azimuth from that boulder and walked 138 feet. Now, when I got to 138 feet, there was actually a little bit of a hill that went down and a little bit of a draw there where the water was flowing out. And I started metal detecting on a little bit of a slope, and I got a hit. Of course, started digging and found a little aluminum vessel for cooking, like camping, and it was trash, buried trash. So, swing and a miss, right? But, you know, when you're taking an azimuth heading like that, you know, you get off even half a foot by the time you get, you know, you're going to be off several feet, right?
Yeah.
So we just started arcing to the right, and we went over about 15, 20 feet, started metal detecting, found a I think it was 50s era Coke can. No good. Swing and a miss again. Then went over a little and kind of got to a flatter area of this particular slope that was going down towards the lake, and there was a stump, an old stump, a big stump. I mean, it was maybe half or bigger, diameter of this table.
So it could have been a couple hundred years old.
Oh, it was an old tree, but it had been dead for a long time.
So, yeah.
So started metal detecting and got to the base of it and got a hit. So I started digging and I pulled out an aluminum tent nail that's about 10 inches long. And I'm like, this isn't trash. Somebody may have forgotten it, but it's buried. And I thought maybe it's a marker like the bullet. And so metal detected again, got another hit, and started digging again. And I got through the organic soil about a foot. Now this thing said, 18 inches to 2 feet?
Mm-hmm.
So there was about a foot of deep organic stuff. And this is like, now I'm like right up against the edge of the stump and actually starting to dig under it a little bit. And then I got to glacial soils. It suddenly turned gray. And instead of dark, kind of a reddish black color, organic rich. And then I started pulling rocks out and sand, and then this happened.
You found Legos?
No, I did find Legos.
I've seen this before somewhere.
The green jar.
The green jar.
And I pulled it out, and there was a tin top on it like this,
Okay.
and that's what was pinging, right?
That was what was pinging. So
Yeah.
somebody, buried this jar and put the metal on it,
Put the tin can on top
thinking that it would then be more possible to find it.
with a detector.
Yeah,
And now we know when that happened.
we do.
We know exactly when that happened.
In 1973?
53.
53.
53.
53.
73 is the false flag of Marchand dying.
Okay, so
right?
53. Yeah, I'm 2 years old and I didn't know about this at that point.
Wait, you were on the Mayflower with me. You were sitting right next to me, Randall.
Oh, was that you? Okay.
Anyway, so I'm holding this thing and I'm like in shock. I'm like,
But there's something inside it.
well, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll get there.
Okay.
Hey, I got to enjoy my moment, right? I mean,
Okay.
I'm holding this thing like this, and you've seen that picture.
Oh, yeah.
And part of me is going, there's no way. The other part of me is like, this is it. My gut was saying, this is it. But, there's a part of you that goes, you don't find stuff like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm holding this, and
Now, this has been dug up from under this stump.
I pulled it out from under the stump. It was
Yeah.
laying like this,
Uh-huh.
and I pulled it out like that.
Okay.
And I remember
And it
grabbing
was
the bottom.
sealed. It's sealed.
Well, it was sealed, and it was sealed with wax. And so I took the tent pole, and I, took the wax off. I collected the wax. We have that, and then I opened it. You can see it's corroded a little bit, but it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say what the jar is or what it was for.
Yeah, this is a prune juice jar, and the company that started making this particular vessel with prune juice was back in the 1940s.
So this would have been around in 1953.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it fits, right?
Yeah.
So then, what I did was, it was filled with sand.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a big sample bag. I poured the sand out into it. I have made a thin section. I've identified what the sand is. It's a very fine-grained, highly angular quartz and feldspar sand. And the high angularity the high surface area is going to absorb moisture. Mm-hmm. And when I poured it out, there was like dust billowing. It was dry as a bone. So the paper inside was perfect. Now, before I get to the paper, I want to tell you what else was inside. 8 of these.
And what we have here, it appears to be Well, he's wearing a helmet. He's holding a mace and a shield.
Yes.
The helmet, is that Templar or is that?
Well, according to the material that we found, it's supposed to be a knight, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think it's appropriate. But what they did was they put 8 of those inside the jar.
Its coat. Buttons from its coat.
From a coat, yeah. And actually there was a piece of thread still on one of them, and we saved all that. But the reason they put these metal buttons in there, I think, is that if that tin can on top corroded away, this was the backup so they could find it.
Uh-huh.
With the metal detector.
Got it, yeah.
And of course, the number 8.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, we didn't find those until much later because we were so focused on what was in the scroll. And the scroll itself was wrapped in a
Placemat.
Was it a handkerchief or a placemat? It was a placemat,
A
a designer placemat that was made by a woman who her little icon was a ladybug. And that we found the exact placemat, and it was manufactured between 1950 and 1957.
Mm-hmm. So again, the time frame fits.
Everything fits. The paper, we were able to check the watermarks on the paper. Mm-hmm. The paper was manufactured in Wisconsin, Wausau paper, and they were founded like in the late 1800s, so that's no problem. And what was the other thing? There was one. Oh, the tin can was a Chung King Chow Mein tin can. You know, remember how you used to get Chung King, and it was in you get the noodles in the small tin can, and then the rest was in the big one. It was the noodle can, and that was actually founded in Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay.
By Gino Palucci.
Oh, Gino Palucci, yeah.
You know that name. He was one of the donors to the UMD football team. And I played football up there. So I knew Gino Palucci. I knew of him. I didn't meet him. But anyway, that goes back to the 1940s. Here again,
yeah,
everything fits,
so
right?
It looks like it's authentically early 50s.
Everything fits what the information tells us.
Mm-hmm.
So once we unwrapped it, we got a bundle of paper. The first thing we got was this.
This is Italian?
It is. Very good.
Not really. I would have to go over there and perhaps call on my old friend Google's translator.
We've already translated it. We're way ahead of you. You ready?
I'm ready. Oh, I suppose there's some mathematics down here.
Hold on.
Okay.
We'll get there.
All right.
The power is within you.
Il potere.
The glory of God shines around you through other people.
La gloria di Dio, that would be deity, right? Splenda intorno, within you. Yeah, okay. And then what was the last part?
The glory of God shines around you through other people.
Through other people. Alter personae. So other people. Okay.
Well, that's pretty profound.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good stuff. So read it again.
The power is within you. The glory of God shines around you through other people.
Okay.
Oh, he's very good. He's learning. Good job. I was waiting for that. What do you see?
Moon.
Moon is Jesus' skull.
Oh, yeah?
The bear is the scroll. That's where they were hidden.
Oh, there's the bear. 138 feet. And the moon.
You know what's interesting about 138 feet? Not only is it where this was, but it's also the distance between the two islands.
Okay. So that would actually give them a reference. If they knew, the distance between the two islands, they could always calibrate.
Yes.
It's got, just like at the tower.
Yeah, it's confirmation.
Information.
Now, there was another sheet.
So we got an alpha equals.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
see,
let's talk
squared
about that.
Over
Oh, yeah.
4 m. Let's see, what is that? So we got beta equals a over 2 pi. I'd have to spend a little time with this to make sense out of it. I can't quite make out 4m, and what's the little? That little, it looks like a degree sign, but it's down at the bottom. HE or HC?
The bear and the moon.
Okay, there's the moon.
There's the bear, there's the moon.
Oh.
138 feet. That's the distance between the two islands.
Okay.
Just so you give you context. And oh, by the way, before we go to this, do your work.
Well, that looks like the moon right there. This looks like, let's see.
Flip it this way. Go this way.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
There we go, yeah. So we got,
100.
I was going to say CX
X
plus,
X.
right?
No, they're X's.
X's. Okay, so yeah, we got 138 feet. Okay,
Yep,
written in
it's
Latin.
the same.
Yeah.
Is that a hooked X? No, not there.
Not there. Okay. Got it. So it's, you got a C for 100, and then you got the three
X's.
which is 30, and then you got a V and 3 I. So yeah, 138.
Do you see the bear?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that cool, the way they drew it?
Can you get that back at?
I got it.
Can you see this, Rowan?
No.
No, okay. Because, yeah, Rowan's not supposed to see this, right?
Well, you can't from this side because I have a document covering
Well, yeah,
it up, but you wouldn't see it anyway.
Well,
you have to be on this side.
That was a Rowan joke.
Oh,
That Rowan's not supposed to see
oh
this.
God! Your jokes have to come with
He's my
instructions.
little-
I can't.
He's
I just
my
not.
little brother. He might not be able to handle this.
I think I left my sense of humor back in Minneapolis. I don't know.
That's the wrong.
Okay, well, let's get back to this.
Yeah, let's get back
So
to
what
this.
is that? We still don't know what that is. I'm trying to look and see what we wrote about this, but I don't think we know.
To do with
A and B. So, so we got
what's
an
the
alpha and a
ratio?
beta. We should start with the simple one, beta, which is your alpha over 2
Pi.
pi is what I'm guessing,
Yeah.
equals alpha squared. That's the part, it looks like if this was, maybe it's deliberately offset. I don't know. If this was right here, if this was up higher, I would immediately go, okay, it's 0 degrees or something. Oh,
But it's not. Yeah.
it's not.
Would you agree it's a complex formula?
Yeah. So they're giving you. So this, you'd have to substitute this into here. You see, A is equal to this.
Yep.
So beta is equal to all of this divided by 2 pi.
Mm-hmm.
Is
And
what it's telling you.
T2 equals this whole thing, right? Equals A squared.
Where are you seeing T2?
Right here.
I think that's.
That's R.
That's
Okay.
No, I think that's a beta.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it from
I
the
think
same-
we're looking at alpha and beta here. I could be wrong, but that was my first impression. That's the Greek letter beta, but I don't know. But I'm gonna play with this because
Please do.
Yeah.
and that right there, HC or HE. Here, this looks like
that
an
looks
E.
like a C to me.
Well, is it the same as this?
No, I don't think
different.
it is.
So this looks like an E.
That's an E, I
So
think.
E squared.
E squared and HC is what I see.
HC.
And then is this a 4? What
That
is,
I would interpret that as a 4. I mean, yeah. That
yeah,
looks like
look
a
at this
4.
because here's a 4 here. It kind of looks similar.
Yeah.
Sort of boxy looking, right?
Yeah. 13. and then 17 in parentheses.
That's crazy, isn't it? Do you want to?
Yes, I do.
I think you should play with that a little bit.
Yeah,
because
I will write that down and.
Or just take a picture of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Randall, you've been spending time with this equation.
Uh-huh.
How would you sum up what you think you've discovered?
Well, I'm going to have to dive more into what Beckett has discovered about the fine constant.
Okay.
I want to thoroughly understand that. But I noticed some interesting gematria connections. And what tipped me off was 729, which is a number we find frequently in systems of sacred geometry.
Okay.
The square root of 729 is 27, which is one of the foundational numbers of the whole system of gematria, and particularly Greek Kabbalah.
Yeah.
But also the temple and the proportions of the temple. So,
okay.
so if you take 27 and you square it, that's where you get the 729.
Right here.
Yeah, right there. So
these are the divine proportions of the temple in Jerusalem. Is that what you're saying, or just the temple in the temple in the lodge?
Well, yeah. So this is a number that you find frequently incorporated into the systems of sacred geometry that are used in many examples. Usually not very prominent. They're not necessarily the prominent numbers, but you see, if you take for example, if you have a square that's 27 inches on a side, its area is 729 square inches.
Okay.
See that? So you have this correlation there. And so, yeah, gematria would be, I think, too complicated to try to get into now. And at some point, I'm going to do some recordings about the whole system.
Okay.
There's a Greek system, a Hebrew system, and an Islamic, an Arabic system.
Oh, okay. All right.
And, of course, they're all based upon the idea that numbers and letters can be interchanged.
Right.
And they have their origins back before the advent of the Hindu-Arabic numeral system, which is what we have now. So you have numerical values, you have letters of the alphabet.
Gematria. What we would call gematria?
But prior to about 500 BC, they were the same set of symbols. And that was the gematria.
Oh, okay.
The gematria is the idea that if you it's a substitution cipher. So if you take the words, like you just took a word, two words, you took a name, an important name from the
one
Greek.
We just deciphered.
Right.
Yeah.
And it has a number, right?
Right.
Now that number has geometric significance.
Okay.
In the relation between a pentagon, a pentagram, the 5-pointed star, which you've written about and talked about, and the square. That relationship can be based on the ratio of 2.368. So there's geometric symbolism in that.
Okay.
And we could get into that, but it's better with examples and to show the relationship.
We're not prepared to do that.
We're not prepared to do that. But essentially that's what we've got here, is that significant numbers and ratios, particularly as they relate to geometric relations, can be encoded into words that can be constructed into sentences and names, and that can be now presented, if you want to call it that, the outer veil of a teaching, where the inner teaching is the underlying numerical patterns.
And if you haven't been initiated, I could say something to you, two initiated people could say something, and other people in the room have no idea what we're talking about, but you and I do.
That's right.
That's basically what you're saying.
In a way, yeah. So, I mean, I might be talking, casually mention a number.
Yeah.
And you would immediately know that number has significance in a number of different applications.
Right.
And, I mean, what we find is that there's a structure that sort of, on all levels of measuring of time and space, we find that there is an ancient system of metrology that has its roots in sacred geometry. And those are the numbers we find embedded over and over again in the measures of time and space.
Right.
So it's no coincidence that if you take 10 days of time, there's 864,000 seconds in 10 days of time, and there's 864,000 miles in the diameter of the sun. So the same number is now measuring time and space.
Well, there has to be a connection here with ratios of planets and heavenly bodies. I'll give you an example. I find it interesting that when we have an eclipse, So let's say that the Earth
Yes.
goes between the sun and the moon, and the shadow of the Earth is exactly the same size as the moon. And they're not anywhere near the same size, but yet that shadow, when it hits the moon, covers it perfectly. And when the moon goes between the Earth and the sun, it covers it perfectly. And so those are not coincidences. This is all divinely or
Well, the ratio of the sun's diameter to its distance from the Earth is 400. The ratio of the lunar diameter to its distance from the Earth is 400. And it actually works out. That's the ratio. But if you look at the sizes of the orbs themselves, they're both 108 times their own diameter from the Earth, which is an interesting number because 108 is one of the core numbers of the whole system of sacred geometry. It's the angle you get between two edges of a pentagon, 108
inside
degrees.
of a pentagram.
Pentagon, which is how you get the pentagram.
Right.
So
That's for sure sacred geometry right there. That's,
right. And so there's this connection that we just saw between the number of Jesus Christ and the pentagram. So we found it in
this number too.
in this number here
Yeah.
too.
Well, there's a lot more work that can be done here, but isn't this amazing? And this was the first document that was covering the rest. Do you want to see the rest?
Let's do it.
All right, baby, here we go. So, when we unwrapped the scroll, the first page, and actually they are numbered because if you look here, you see like a dot. And then I forget. Yeah, and here we have like an asterisk here, an asterisk here. Then we have one here. We have two here, three here. 1, 2, 3. And then we go 3 here, connects here like this, and then 4. And then 4 connects here. So you just follow the numbers and you do it in sequence. So let's do it in sequence. Okay. So here's the beginning. Now, take a look, and this is Theban. How many rows of Theban are there?
Well, let's see. 8.
There's that number again. We keep getting this crazy number, right?
Well, interesting. Look, 8 has always been one of my favorite numbers. For example, we're sitting at an octagonal table right now. That was by design.
I'm sure it wasn't a coincidence. Okay, so now I am going to tell you what that says. Right here. These are the 2 pages. So these 8 Theban rows say this. The 325-year compilation of old and new writings is not the infallible word of God, but the fallible compilation of the Roman Catholic Church to support their doctrine.
Read that again.
The 325-year compilation.
The 320. Okay, do we know what does that refer to? The 325
Council of Nicaea
was 325.
325 AD.
And that's when they determined the dogma,
What the
church
doctrine
dogma,
would be.
the doctrine, and by implication, what would be heretical.
Yeah, if you didn't follow that doctrine.
Right.
In other words, they're bullshit. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it because it's bullshit. The 325 compilation of old and new writings is not the infallible word of God, as they claim, but the fallible compilation of the Roman Catholic Church to support their doctrine. I find that to be astounding. I just love that because it's true. It's 325 at the Council of Nicaea when Constantine brought all these leaders together to try to consolidate the Roman Empire. Instead of doing it through force, he did it through faith. And what he did was he took a little piece of everybody's, ideology and put it into the doctrine so they could all go back and tell, hey, look what I got, right? So they were all on board. It was actually quite brilliant, but it set up and ended up being the scourge of the world for the next 1,700 years. To the year, almost, last year. 2025, 325, 1,700 years later.
Wow.
Okay, let's move on. See these numbers?
Yeah.
We got rows of numbers. We actually got word separators for like the first time. Normally, we don't get those.
So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 rows of numbers, and then here it transitions.
Yes. See, they got a
Into
period,
symbols.
meaning we're
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Then you
yeah.
get into this next code. But let's do this one.
Let's do that
Okay.
one. See what we got.
This one is really important, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Translated from the original Aramaic by Brother Simon for the poor Knights of Christ.
So you got the twice.
The poor Knights of Christ. Now, stupid me did not get it. But then when I called Don, and after we found this, I made copies, and I immediately went to Don's and gave him copies, full-size copies. And then went to a hotel, and we started to decipher while he was deciphering at his place.
Okay.
But we are calling back and forth. And I got to hear, and we figured out what this was. And I said, Don, what the hell is this the poor Knights of Christ? He said, it's a tell. And I went, oh, the poor Knights of, that's a cipher phrase. He said, exactly. And that is at the end. And I'll show you that. But Don was the one that figured it out. So I want to make sure he gets credit for that, because I was struggling. What is the? Hello, it's a tell. And so, and I should know that because we've had lots of tells in these coded messages before, and I just didn't get this one.
What do we mean by a tell?
It's like, pay attention to me. I'll give you an example. On the Kensington Runestone, when I did the photo library, I was finding, under low angle and high angle reflected light, I was finding punch marks and short strokes that were added to the runes that nobody had ever noticed before. They were clearly man-made, and if they were man-made, they meant something. So what I did is every time I came across one, I would put it in a separate folder, and I labeled it odd runes. And then later on, Dick and I figured out what those codes were. Dick Nielsen, who I wrote The Kensington Runestone Compelling New Evidence, that book with. Now, there were a number of codes that we found. The first code we found was a dating code. On the front side of the runestone, we have the number 8. The number 8 keeps showing up in this stuff. I wonder why.
No.
Well, I know why. It's a sacred number. It's part of the Fibonacci sequence, and it goes on and on. But in any case, the number 8 was singled out. The L on, I think it's line 4, in the word skiar, which is also esclar, possibly a corrupted spelling of Sinclair. But the scholars didn't know what to do with it because there's a short stroke in the middle of that L. But L is also perfect for a golden year if you're making an encrypted date using the medieval Easter table. And then the last thing on the inscription is a fancy looking U with a stroke and 2 dots. Shouldn't have the stroke. And if you plot those 3 things on the Easter table, you get the date 1362. Now, we also have the date 1362 in pentatic numbers and Arabic placement on the Kensington Runestone, but we also have the date encoded within the inscription because I'm saying it's a land claim. And if somebody added another stroke to the 3 in 1362, that's 100 years. Can't do it because we've encoded the same date within the inscription using the medieval Easter table dating tradition from the exact same time period. That's one code. Another code that we found that becomes absolutely germane right now on the Kensington runestone, the first 4 runes that are singled out with a dot or a short stroke are the letters G, R, A, L in sequence, which in medieval Old Swedish spells what?
Grail or Graal, but
Grail.
Yeah.
That Grail.
That Grail.
On the Kensington runestone. And of course, what did people say? Oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that precious? You found Grail. What do you want from me? These things are singled out and in sequence. This is what it says. I want to say something to those people that used to criticize me. I have said things to them, but I'm more mature now, so I'm going to calm down. We've got Grail on the stone. We also have, this is interesting too. This tells you the complexity of and the level of initiation that the carver of the inscription had. The numbers that we see in the inscription: 8, 22, 10, 10, 14. Did you know that there are exactly 22 hooked X's in the inscription?
I recall that from the book.
That's one of the numbers, right? Do you know how many individual pentatic numbers there are?
That I don't remember.
14.
Oh.
Coincidence? You know how many G runes there are? And G is backwards. And of course the scholar said, well, that's not right. It's got a dot at the top. 10. No, take that back. The W rune, which is used for V and W, like Vinland, there are 10 of those.
Okay.
And it's the G rune, the backwards G rune. There are 8 of those.
Okay.
So they are, the numbers are all encoded with these rare runes that the scholars said never existed. And guess what they did? So, I mean, that is just one level of depth to this inscription that nobody's ever documented. How come I'm the first person to point this out? Because it's a fake and nobody ever bothered to study it. But anyway, and there's more we'll get into, but let's keep going here.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. So now we have a cipher phrase, the Poor Knights of Christ, which is, how many letters would you guess that phrase is?
The Poor Knights of Christ. 22.
Bingo. That's not a coincidence either. Oh, that's on the Kensington runestone. Oh, that's how many hooked X's we have on the runestone. Crazy.
Well, you know that's how many letters there are in the Hebrew alphabet.
In the Hebrew alphabet, exactly.
And the 22 paths of wisdom in the Zohar.
It's a sacred number. Yes?
Yeah,
You want to know another 22 that's really cool?
sure.
Do you know how many bones you have in your skull?
I would guess 22.
You are correct. 8 in your cranium, 14 in your face. Add them together.
14 plus 8 comes up to 22.
Bingo. So when I give that lecture and I talk about, this mysticism of these numbers and the mystical aspects and esoteric aspects of the Kensington runestone, I talk about the spiritual journey that everybody takes at one point in their life, right? Whether it's through religion, through some spiritual pursuit, whatever. At the end of the day, what happens? It all comes back to you, right? And if you start adding other numbers up, like, what's 8 and 22?
30.
Plus 2 shelters, the next number in the inscription. 30 plus 2.
Oh, 32.
1 day's journey north. 33. How many degrees in the Scottish Rite degree system?
Well, I would say 32.
Plus 1, right?
Plus 1, right.
And how many vertebrae do you have in your spinal column?
Last time I counted, it was at 33.
Bingo. It all comes back to you, literally, these sacred numbers. Okay, enough of that pontification. This next part with these strange symbols that goes to here
Yeah.
says this: encrypted by Brother Leonidas for the Order of the Grail. The Order of the Grail 1897. Could this be the same order of the Grail that did the Kensington runestone?
In 1362.
62.
Could be. Could be.
I'm liking it.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? I'm going with it.
So the Order of the Grail, 18 what?
97.
So 1897.
That's when this work was done.
So then, where is the Order of the Grail now? Did they go underground? Did they dissipate? Did they pass away? Or do they still exist in some organized form?
Do you think it's a coincidence that we found this?
Probably not.
I'm just asking a question. I think Tim Hogan is the grand master of that tradition.
Okay. Interesting. So Tim, yeah, I've gotten to know Tim pretty good over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to do a debunking of the BS around the Masonic, around the
Oh,
craft.
good.
Yeah.
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 If you need any help,
Yes.
I can frame up and put people down if you want.
I want.
Figuratively, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
If that's all
I can
it
still
takes.
play.
Good.
All right, so Order of the Grail, Brother Leonidas, 1897. So that's when this was done. So they had the original, not the original Aramaic. I'm sure it was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, because that's what the tradition does. We talked about it earlier. So this was when this work was done. It was put on the Bear Island, and then it was probably around 1900 or whenever they did it. Then it was moved in 1933 as we started to get involved in the lead up to World War II. And then in 53, they decided they needed to do a better job of protecting this. And then we come along. Okay, here we go. MF.
Motherfucker. Oh, sorry.
You took the bait.
Oh.
I thought you were more mature than that.
Not always. I backslide from
I
time
said
to
the
time.
same thing, okay? MF, my father,
Okay, I like that better, yeah.
equals MG,
My God.
Okay.
my God.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yep. Father Genesis, chapter 1. Let us make man in our own image. Genesis chapter 1 plus 3, 5:16. Let us make man in our image. In the image of God made he him. To make more, he needed a female, so Eve. They made Cain and Abel. Cain slew Abel, and MF put his mark on him. IHN in his name.
Okay.
And banished him to Nod, so none there would kill him. But if Adam, Eve, Cain are the only people, who is in Nod? Good question. Know this. Then they were not the first people, but the first Jews.
That's a different slant on it.
That's a different slant, isn't it? But it makes perfect sense. How can you banish somebody to a city if they're the first people?
Well, I pointed that out for years without
Well-
ever getting any satisfactory response.
Guess who's pointing it out again?
Uh-huh.
Him. Chapter 6, 5, 2. Chapter 6, 5, 2. And the sons of MF saw the daughters of men, and found them pleasing in their sight, and came and knew them. And they settled in the land of Nod, where Cain was sent, so their children enjoyed life for its pleasures, both male, female, male, male, and female, female. So apparently he doesn't have a problem with gay people.
Well, it doesn't.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just reading it. This does not procreate or Hanor MF, so he destroyed them all. But flood nor fire succeeded. Thus, the sons and daughters of natural man filled the earth, yet nowhere did they mate with a Jew till Lisbeth.
Till what?
Filled the earth, yet nowhere did they mate with a Jew till Lisbeth.
Lisbeth. I don't get
John
that.
the Baptist's mother.
Oh, okay.
Who's they?
The sons of God. Is that who it's referencing there?
Mm-hmm.
So who are those guys?
That's the question.
Yeah. That's the question that seems to get glossed over
It's-
quite frequently.
it's them.
Within
It's
the
them.
Uh-huh.
Up there. Seeing it work in 6 weeks, the angel Anton came and knew my mother. How do you interpret that, Mr. Carlson?
My mother?
Knew my mother.
Well, it sounds like the angel Anton came and procreated with his mother.
Bingo. So what does that mean?
Well, who's speaking here?
Oh, you're going to figure that out soon.
Okay. Well, let's go on.
You know
then.
who it is.
Well, okay.
What is this document called?
I don't know. What is it called?
Yes, you do. What have we been calling it the whole
The
time?
Yeshua Scroll?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So who's talking?
Well, Yeshua?
Let that sink in. But Jan and I chose MF. John
Yeah, Jan.
chose God.
Mm-hmm.
Then know this: Adam and Eve could read or write. Thus, the tree of life was not a tree, but a book that spoke. That makes sense. The tree of knowledge was a book. The fruit chapters numbered 1, 11, 2, 111, etc. So MF looked like man except for intelligence, hence the book to store it all. MF and his wife Asherah, called wisdom, rebuked his brother for having led Eve to open the book and sent him out of earth to Arcturus. But he returns when called, for many follow him here. What of the serpent? I don't know what's going on here. I'll be honest. I'm not tracking. Arcturus?
Mm-hmm.
That's the eye of the bull of Taurus.
Mm-hmm. Well, then it could be a reference to the Taurid meteor shower, and a serpent has been frequently used to represent
that.
Represent that.
So the meteor shower, could that be them coming here?
Well, I mean, we know that every year Earth crosses through a stream of meteors, and it's the most likely candidate for triggering various catastrophes, such
like the
as
glacial disintegration of the glacial ice sheets
and
at the Younger Dryas period.
and the subsequent floods.
Right. Well, the raising of sea level.
Right.
When
and
the
in
ice
fact,
caps
the Hebrew
melted.
were, we're talking about the constellation of the bull,
Right.
right? And in Hebrew, the Hebrew word for flood, the deluge, is mabul,
Okay.
and it's related to our word for bull. the flood itself. It's almost as if hidden in the.
So could that be a connection to Taurus and Arcturus?
Well, I would think it could be, yeah.
All of a sudden, that seems to tie together.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know this before. Very good.
Oh, well.
Well, no, I mean, it fits, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't make heads or tails of that. Now, all of a sudden, it's starting to make a little more sense.
Well, and there was a whole, at the core of the original Christianity, there was a very strong eschatological component to it. We see, how does the New Testament ends with the whole apocalyptic tradition, and which I think refers directly to the
Younger Dryas, right?
Yeah, and the great cycle of catastrophes that all of the, that was part of the wisdom tradition, understanding the vast temporal cycles. That was the concept behind the great year. Yeah. Which has definitely found its way into early Christianity.
You're talking about precession of the equinoxes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that whole cycle.
Yeah. And 26,000 year long cycle that, if I'm understanding what you're saying right, is predicated on not just the rotation of the zodiacal belt around the Earth, but also this catastrophic event that happens.
Yes.
Once every 26,000 years. Or is it once every half cycle?
Well, it's
12,
even quarter cycles.
Yeah, or 13, whatever.
Yeah, but a half cycle gives us the Younger Dryas.
Right.
And basically, if you talk about the lion of the tribe of Judah, refers us to Leo. Leo. And then the cusp of Virgo Leo. So now we have that connection between the Virgin and Leo. Right. Precisely defines the lower Younger Dryas boundary. So the geology has confirmed significance to the ancient symbolism.
The hard science.
Yes.
Of geology.
Yeah. And it's
confirming. Data. Yeah. Wow. This is awesome. Yeah. And this isn't the first time we go back in time we see this cyclical event. Correct. Right? And where would it be best preserved? In those glacial ice cores. Right. Probably up in Greenland.
Greenland, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting that Greenland has been in the news lately, hasn't it?
I know.
Hey, I don't think it's a small thing for us to acknowledge that we are living through a very profound moment in history right now. Mm-hmm. And we're making these connections live as we're going through this.
Look at you see a document up on the screen there with highlights? Yeah. Okay, that is a document about Younger Dryas studies from Greenland ice cores. Really? Because Greenland...
I didn't look at that. I swear to God. I just said it, didn't I?
Yeah. So here's the thing. The Greenland ice cores are an archive.
Yes.
They're an archive.
They're a book.
That's revealing the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful continuous unit of geological sediments that are undisturbed. Yeah. And they're the most reliable, especially in the last whatever million years. It's been a relatively recent record, but a lot of shit has happened in the last several million or tens of millions of years.
What that is telling us right there is that looking at that Younger Dryas layer, there's a huge spike of ammonium. That ammonium is a byproduct of forest fires. That is then followed by a huge spike of dust.
Like this is ash. Is this ash settling down from those?
Or it could be. Well, yeah, it could be. So you've got a lot of calcium, which comes from the crust of the earth. So if you have a forest, the forest burns down in an intense fire. What you're left with is highly erodible, dried out material. Right. So now the wind can pick that stuff up. Right. And that's what happened. So you've got the ammonium spike followed immediately by huge dust deposits. And that in that Greenland ice sheet is two of the signatures of the beginning of the Younger Dryas.
And that's when?
About 12,900 years ago.
So about 13,000 years ago, about half a cycle of the precession.
Based on the traditional number, it would be 12,960 years would be a half cycle. Okay. 25,920 is the traditional number for the whole cycle. And if you use the 50 arc seconds per year, which is slightly more. It means, of course, that's only the rate right now. We don't know that the rate stays continuous.
We assume it's a constant, but it may not have
It
been.
may not be.
Yeah.
So, but that gives you a little bit less than 25,920 years. A little bit less, not much. And even in the textbooks, they typically round off the precessional cycle to 26,000, and that's okay. But that's even a greater error than the error between the measured rate and the traditional number.
Right.
The measured rate now of precessional motion is closer to 25,920 than it is to 26,000. But you always see 26,000 typically as the length of the precessional cycle.
That's an okay number. It's easy to remember.
Right.
I mean, you
Yes.
start getting too detailed. People's eyes start glazing over. You got to keep
100%.
engaged.
100%. But I think it's important to remember that if you project the motion that we've now measured with a high degree of accuracy is actually closer to the traditional number than the number we use for convenience.
Okay.
That's my point.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're going to be rounding off, because you're rounding off because the real number is 50 seconds plus. Well, okay, but it's not far off, and it's actually closer.
It's close enough for dirt work, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, let's go on then.
All right. Natural female mated with my uncle and got the creature with legs that crawled from the waters, and over a long time came to be natural man, strong and large of stature, worshiping its ancestor. A fork in the road became the snake. Another natural, I don't know what this stuff, I don't know.
The serpent,
The serpent comes again.
forked tongue.
So this is allegorical, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Another natural man and woman. So if you follow me, whether you turn right or left, you will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it."
We know, interestingly, by gematria, the term Messiah, Mashiach. Now, this is in the Hebrew.
Right.
Mashiach.
Yeah?
Mem, Sheen, Yod, Chet. Mem is 40, Sheen is 30, Yod is 10, and Chet is 8. Wait a minute. Mem, 40, Sheen is 300.
Okay.
So that's 340. Yod is 10, and Chet is 8. So 358. That's 358. Now, in the garden,
358 are the three whole numbers of the Fibonacci
that's
sequence.
right.
In
and,
sequence.
And the golden
spiral, the golden ratio, which is the same thing.
Now, in the garden, Eve is approached by the serpent, who says, asks her, hath God said, ye shall not eat of the tree of the fruit of knowledge? And she says, yeah, God said that. And he said, not only that, if we eat of it, we're going to die. And the serpent says, you're not going to die. God knows that in the day you eat thereof, your eyes are going to be opened and you're going to be like the gods. So then she looks at it. She says, oh, it looks like it's good for food and good to make one wise. So she took a bite of it and gave it to her husband. And then what the book of Genesis actually then says is that the eyes of both of them were opened. All right. But remember, Jehovah said, if you eat of it, you'll surely die. Well, then you read the Bible itself. It says, no, it didn't say that they then died. It said their eyes were opened. Like the serpent told them. Now, here's the point. The serpent is Nachash. Nun Chet Sheen. Nun is 50. Chet is 8. And Sheen is 300.
358.
Yeah.
358 again.
358 again.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? You said that they will die, right? But in fact, they were enlightened, right? You could make the argument that this is resurrection in the form of they were intellectually resurrected, right? If you die and you don't learn, you're dead, right? It's almost like a Masonic death resurrection ritual. But this is about education. And in many ways, that is the ritual that we go through, because the person you die, the person that you were, is dead, right? The one that's not initiated. But upon initiation, you learn the secrets, you learn the knowledge through initiation and the degrees of Freemasonry. Then you are reborn as this new enlightened person. That sounds to me exactly what you just said. That's in the Bible.
So
I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and this kind of inverts the whole idea of like, well, wait a second, who is actually then telling the truth in this? I mean, it doesn't say.
Right. If you eat it, you die. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You will be initiated if you read it, not killed.
Right.
That's,
Your eyes will be open.
Opened. Yeah.
Your eyes will be open. So they eat of it, and then what does it say happened? The eyes of them both were opened.
And they learned, and they grew, and they went forward.
Okay. Well, let's keep going.
All right.
Let us go forward.
And then in English here, now we've gone through both of these 2 pages, and now we're getting to page 5. And you can see the letters.
Yeah.
This is all, or excuse me, these are numbers. These are all numbers.
Okay.
And they correspond to letters. And what's interesting is we have 1 through 99. There's only 26 letters. And what's interesting, we were able to find several numbers that represented a letter. I think the most we found was 5 or 6 numbers that correlated to the same letter. That's what made this so damn difficult.
Okay.
Any case, when we got done, it all made sense, and this is what we got. But then in English, it says this right here. Can you read that? Read that line right there. Goes across.
Asia, it looks like ASIA, MAL.
I'm not helping you, brother.
MALLOW. I believe that MALL Mallow DTA. That's an E. What do we? Mallow. There's more on there. It's hard to tell if that's an L. But let's see. WTSA.
Welcome to my world. 2 straight days of this shit.
We got Asia. That sounds pretty obvious. And then it looks like an M followed by an A followed by an L, but could that be a K?
Asia is not correct.
What?
Asia is not correct.
Well, okay. As I am, all owed, as I am, all allowed, as I am allowed to say, as I am allowed to say, as I am allowed to say. That's all it says.
That's what it says.
As I am allowed to say.
What the hell does that mean? He is saying, apparently, after all that stuff that we just went through, he is saying, as I am allowed to say. This is Jesus saying, this is all I'm allowed to say, apparently.
So we go through this, and then he says, as I am allowed to say, referring to what
we
is
just
encrypted in these numbers.
All the way through what we just went through.
Okay. Well, can you beat that?
Yes. Yes, I can. And we're about to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to explain something.
Okay.
So here is a series of letters.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And what did I say the cipher phrase was?
The what?
Or
Oh, the poor Knights of Christ. The poor Knights of Christ.
and how many letters did we say was in that phrase?
22.
And how many rows?
22.
Okay. So, what you do is you take the poor Knights of Christ and you set up a grid system like this with 22 rows.
22 rows.
The poor Knights of Christ. So, what's the first letter? Let's say A, no. B, no. C, Christ.
Okay.
So we go to our grid and we go to the C in Christ and we take the first row and put it this way.
Okay.
And then you go through the alphabet, D, E, the first E, and you take this as the second one, wherever the E is, the next letter, boom, you go all the way through until you're done. And then you read it this way. You put everything this way, you read it this way.
Okay.
And here's what it said. Buckle up, Buttercup.
Okay.
That's what it said.
Yeah, that's
All right, seriously. I not entirely human. A rupture of the small intestines was not enough to kill me.
which would be, I'm presuming, the piercing with the lance.
I slowed my breath and was declared dead. Remember what we started this whole thing off with? When I read that, and every time I read that message about the alternate resurrection, I assume he's dead. And they thought he was dead because they said we are unclean. And Jews, when they handle a dead body, are considered unclean. At least that's my understanding.
on certain days.
Well, interestingly, when Joseph of Arimathea goes to Pontius Pilate, begging for the body after only 6 hours, if you go into the original, the Greek, Pontius Pilate, the word he uses is patoma, and the word that Joseph of Arimathea is using in the dialogue in the Greek is soma. The difference is patoma refers to a corpse and a soma refers to a living body. That's got to be significant.
And he says soma.
Joseph of Arimathea uses the term soma.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, of course he would know.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Well, and then
Okay.
remember when he said it is done, he gives up the ghost.
He says tetelestai.
Tetelestai.
That's what that means.
And this happened almost immediately, shortly after he was given the hyssop on vinegar, which was undoubtedly probably an Essene formula.
or practice or tradition.
Well, it was more. I think it was more than a practice and a tradition, because if you go into the original Greek, asidas was one of the terms. Hyssop was one of the other terms, and if you look it up, they're both soporific drugs, which cause your metabolism to slow
Okay.
down.
Okay, so here's something I want to ask you right now. This is great. One of the things that I'm doing in this new book, that's going to be 2 books, it's already 600 plus pages, about this whole Cremona document material. And obviously, this is the crescendo, right? What I have is a number of people as that give commentary. So when and Janet's done it, I mean, a bunch of people, Jerry, others. Would you be willing to write up something? Your interpretation of this specifically is really good stuff that you just said. And I would love to say commentary by Randall Carlson, and we'll just title it whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. I would love to have that contribution. If you're
Sure.
up-
Well,
if
I
you're
mean,
up
that's, all this research that I've done, that's kind of what it's led to, and I think confirmed, is the idea that, yeah, he was taken down off the cross, a living body. The Shroud of Turin itself provides evidence, and that's one reason why I think they kind of did a false flag on that to make it appear as if it was a medieval forgery, because in reality,
So you don't agree with Tim Hogan's interpretation that Leonardo da Vinci made the Shroud of Turin?
I would have to disagree with Tim on
Okay,
that.
all right. Well, he's pretty adamant about that.
Well, that's okay. I can beat the shit out of it. No,
I got your back, brother. If you
No,
get
I
in trouble,
can't-
I'm there.
no, I don't think Leonardo did it because
Okay.
why? Well, it's inconsistent. First of all, with I think the timing. I mean, Geoffrey de Charny, the nephew of one of the last Grand Masters. I mean, Tim must know this. Is the first historical known figure to be associated with the shroud.
And that was that before Leonardo?
Oh yeah, several
Long
hundred
before
years
him.
before Leonardo.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then that begs the question: are we talking about the same shroud?
Oh,
I mean, we
think-
could be talking about two different shrouds, right?
Well, there was Saint Veronica's veil. There's that,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think was the same as this, because the shroud is so unique
Yeah,
that, I mean, it's a negative of a photographic image.
right. Yeah,
And my own conclusion says that it was basically an image that was taken in the tomb, and the tomb was kind of serving the function of a pinhole camera. It was totally dark in there, and all you needed was
well,
a
he's
little
talking about a camera obscura, is what you're talking about.
camera obscura. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So, well, I that's an interesting question. I mean, like I say, Tim is pretty adamant about it, but doesn't mean he's right, or maybe there's more to the story that we don't know.
Okay, maybe there is, but
Yeah. Speaking of that, should we keep going?
keep going. Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be ready for some dinner after this.
I'm be ready for that bottle. Where's that tequila? I slowed my breath and was declared dead. My cousin of my earth father's side had me rest in his family tomb.
That's him. Joseph.
Talpiot tomb.
Yeah. So, right, and that's kind of indicated in the Gospels themselves, because they make it clear that the tomb was, hewn specially for this event.
Mm-hmm.
It was also, it says in there, that it was on Joseph of Arimathea's
Right.
land.
Lamb.
Yeah.
And that's
so
his,
this is from,
that's got to be his cousin
That's what we're talking
yeah, his cousin or
on my earth father's side.
His dad's cousin or something. Like my cousin Lonnie is my age, but he's really my mom's cousin.
Okay.
So you're saying you think that was Lonnie
Yeah.
was talking about? Okay.
My cousin on my earth father's side had me rest in his family tomb. I healed myself, and my wife came and freed me.
Well,
Mary
that's
Magdalene.
one of the Marys, yeah.
We traveled to the north and preached a joint religion of male and female.
So traveling north, was that going to France
I think they went to France first, but
first,
ultimately
and
to
then
Scotland.
ultimately to Scotland,
Probably to the Isle of Iona.
and disembarked probably at Marseille, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a tradition of Mary,
Right.
I mean,
Probably.
it takes its name from Mary,
It doesn't say that here, but
right?
a joint religion of male and female. Here again, that's confirmation of the hooked X, and our interpretation is, I take this as confirmation that's correct. We bore 2 children, returned to Jerusalem, and finally I ascended to my father. My body returned to my cousin's family tomb. So everything that we wrote about in Akhenaten, about the Templars going there and taking the bones, he was there. And now we know they took him and brought him over here. Okay. My spirit will... okay, now this shit is crazy. Okay, you ready? My spirit will return at the end of the 6th day, June 6, by the new counting, 2,999 at 6 p.m. So said my father. But beware, 6/6/26 at 6 p.m. June 6, 26. That's this year. That's in about 5 months.
Well,
6/6/26 at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
What's 6 plus 6?
Well, it would have to be 12.
Plus 26.
Well, that would be.
Before that, it had 2,900.
No, that's a different number. That
That's a different-
it said 2,000, but if you add 6, 6, 6, and 6,
That's
how do we do that? Add that up. 6, 6, and 6.
18.
Plus 26?
Plus 8.
That'd be 44.
Plus 8. 2 plus 6.
Oh, plus 8. 2. 22 plus 6. Yeah, it's 2 and 6 makes 26. So 6, 6, 6, 6 is 24 plus 2 is 26. So if you take the numbers, individual numbers, so you got 4 6s
Yeah,
is
24.
24 plus 2,
It's 26.
26.
Yeah.
So 26 is reconfirmed again.
And 26 is the total value of the tetragrammaton.
Mm.
Yud, He, Vav, He.
Which is 2 times 13.
Right. And that was in there another time before this. You read something about 26.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it was 2 times 30.
Well, and in a bunch of the documents we have, like, they disembarked when they came over to recover the scrolls in 1177 to 1180, Sir Ralph de Sudley, and they lost the ship around Newfoundland. When they got to the mouth of the St. Lawrence, they dropped off we 20 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
They said it that way, not 26, we 20 and 6. And this is spelled out 20 and 6.
Can you read that again? The whole.
Yeah, read the whole
Statement.
thing uninterrupted.
You mean that part?
Yeah, and the sentence before that.
My spirit will return at the end of the 6th day, June 6th, by the new counting, 2,999 at 6 p.m. So said my father. But beware, 6/6/26 at 6 p.m. What is the year?
Twice.
2026.
Now, yes.
And 6/6 has got to be June 6th
Makes sense.
at 6 p.m.
June 6th at 6 p.m.
So what's going to happen?
It's going to be 3 days before my birthday, obviously.
Beware.
Well, yeah, so. that's it.
Beware.
Preparation for Beckett's
That doesn't
birthday.
sound good.
No. Beware.
Beware.
What happens next?
So he says he will return 2,999 years, but beware of.
6/6/26 at 6 p.m.
Do we got any comets coming by? Anything on the radar, Randall?
Not that I know of as far as this coming June.
It's not when the meteor shower is.
Well, I mean, to me,
When is
that
it?
would indicate some type of astronomical something happening,
Mm-hmm.
and probably not good. I mean, don't we have some things that are supposedly coming towards the Earth right now?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's, nothing that, well, 29, it's, what's the name of it again, Beckett? Not Phaeton, the comet that's going to come very close to Earth in 2029. And the question is it going to be deflected enough in its orbit
Right.
so that when it makes the return the next cycle around, that it could actually be, targeted right on the Earth
On the
itself.
Earth, right.
I got to look it up. I can't remember.
But when is that supposed to happen?
2029.
Well, 2029 is the
Apophis.
first passage.
Apophis.
Apophis, yeah.
Of
What's
course.
the meteor shower you said happens every year that you said?
We go through the
every
Taurid
minute?
meteor stream.
Taurid,
Taurid.
yeah.
Okay, when is that?
This isn't the end.
It's October.
Taurid,
Yeah,
right.
October, November.
Taurid meteor shower has two peaks.
Okay.
Summertime peak, which is late June, early July, and fall time peak, which is pretty much centered right on Halloween.
Okay. So
Late
it's not
October,
that-
early November. So it wouldn't be that, no.
Okay.
However, that's probably the meteor shower that's had the most effect on the Earth over the last couple of thousand years.
Okay.
Maybe even going back to the Younger Dryas.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more to be said about that. But go on. Let's
Also, be not fooled by the false prophet, spelled Profit, and his clone, who will rise on the third day after his death. You know what came to mind? The false prophet, Profit, Trump,
oh,
and his clone, Vance.
maybe.
Also, be not fooled.
Yeah.
Well, we're not fooled, but a lot of people are. I don't know if that's what it means, but I find that very interesting.
Sure. Well, I think part of the idea here is these, this could be referring to archetypes
Yeah.
that play out in multiple ways
Right.
down here.
Not necessarily
realm of
an
time and
individual,
space.
but individuals represent that archetype
Correct.
in their time period
Yes.
or
yes.
during their time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it says. I'm not sure what to think about that. Okay. And now we're getting to the end. Know this, in the beginning was the Word, and that Word was God. There was none before him, there was none after him. The Word is eternal.
Wow.
Interestingly, too, the word was God. Where's my pen?
G-O-D.
You took my pen there, Scott.
Did I?
You're one of those people.
I am one of those.
You're
Damn it.
one of those people.
I almost got away with it.
But if you write God using the Greek letters, the square, the circle, and the equilateral triangle. Gamma, Omicron, Delta.
Gematria?
Well, could be, yeah. I mean, gamma, what is that? Alpha, beta, gamma. So this is 3. Omicron is 70, right? And this is 4. So you'd have 374. Now, there's probably other associations with that. But this is not necessarily how God, actually in the Greek, God is theos. But it's just interesting that if you take the English letters of the spelling of God and substitute in the Greek letters, you get the three symbols of geometry, which are the right angle, the circle, and
The circle and the triangle.
and the
Equilateral triangle.
yeah.
Yeah?
So gamma, Omicron, Delta.
It may have something to do with the area within those shapes and outside, like squaring the circle.
Well, what is also interesting is that adds up to 14. Or no. Yes.
Well,
Is that
another
374, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
adds to
374 is
14,
14.
And you know that in the tarot deck there's 22 major trumps.
Yes.
And the
yes.
14th is temperance. It should look up some symbolism having to do with
Interesting.
temperance. As in temperance, fortitude, prudence, and
Right.
justice.
There's also a Venus-Jupiter conjunction around June 6th.
June 6th.
A very bright star.
Oh, Jupiter and Venus. That'll be so
Very
bright.
spectacular.
Huh.
So beautiful.
Okay, so what do you think?
Well, what I think is that, what I've suspected all along is that there is an origin, like a primordial Christianity that preceded the councils
Right.
when it became essentially hijacked to serve as a doctrinaire for
State religion.
political.
Manipulation and control.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And the original ideals of it and meanings were suppressed and became heresy, and then were resurrected. I think that the Templars played an important role in that, reaching back to the original Gnostic traditions, as did the Cathars.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
this is why,
For sure.
yeah, and
They
this-
were practicing the truest form of Christianity at the time.
at the time.
And that's why they were killed.
That's why they had to be suppressed.
Yeah.
Yes. And then now this idea that the because I figured ever since I read Plato and the Timaeus, where he's talking about, beyond the Pillars of Heracles are the group of islands, and beyond those are islands,
Yeah.
and beyond that is the true continent. And that's a reference, from 300 BC.
Right.
And that to me was like the lurking variable. If you know what that is, you know what a lurking variable is?
Well,
in statistics, the lurking variable is the outlier that could typically be ignored, right? Because we're doing a bunch of dates and they're all clustering around 2000, but then we get this date from 2200. It's an outlier. Well,
right.
There's it's an oddity. We don't need to
we
include
just ignore it, right?
Right, because it's not going to affect the statistical outcome. A lurking variable, on the other hand, if you introduce that into your statistical equation, it changes the outcome totally.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, let's go back to what you were talking about with Plato, and they're referring to these islands.
Yes.
I mean, aren't they talking about North America? Is that?
Well, I think he's talking about the Azores, which would have been
right
once upon a time
the islands,
very
right?
prominent during the late glacial maximum. The Azores would have been a
right.
major
Because
island
we're lowering
complex.
sea level 300 to 400 feet.
400 feet.
Right.
But you're something else too. You're raising sea bottom because of isostatic adjustment.
Well, good point. You around the ice sheets. The ice sheets.
Yeah. When you're removing the ice sheets,
you get isostatic rebound. Yep.
Yes. That weight has to go somewhere else because the geoid is constantly trying to maintain equilibrium.
Yeah.
If one place goes up, somewhere
Something
else
goes
needs
down.
to go down.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that there was probably a tradition going back to the Ice Age that there was people probably sailing the Atlantic during the Ice Age because islands all around the world were populated between 30 and 50,000 years ago. So clearly Ice Age people from 30, 40, 50,000 years ago had some seafaring capabilities.
Well, no question about it. In fact, who was the guy that I interviewed on America on Earth who wrote Across Arctic Ice? Archaeologist, really good guy. I can't think of his name right now. He's passed away since we shot that.
Uh-huh.
But what he argued was that during the maximum of the glacial ice sheets, they were hunting seals and animals in the ocean, and they went right across the ice, and they contract the movement by the obsidian points that they made. And what they're doing is the fishermen are taking their nets and they're going down to the bottom of the ocean. They're scraping on the bottom, and they were picking up points from sites on the bottom of the ocean, 300 and 400 feet, that during the maximum, they're picking them up now, but during the ice sheets maximum, they were on the coast, right?
Yeah, above ground.
And
sub-aerial.
And exactly. And so what they're saying is that these people migrated from what is now Europe across Arctic ice and came over to what is now the eastern coastline of North America, or of the United States. That's where they're finding these points that they can trace back to the same style of point. They can trace back to places in Europe.
Well, and then on the other side, you've got, it looks like coastal migration coming across the Bering Land Bridge,
Right.
not through the Ice-Free Corridor, but along the
along the margins of the glacial ice, along the oceans.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah, that makes. And you know what? It's so funny that you talk about the migration through the corridor there. That was what we were taught back in high school and college, and I actually used that in my first book in the. On Lake Superior agates, when I talked about the migration of humans, and it's a straight progression all the way down to the bottom of South America. And now I'm like, oh God, did I really do that? I did. We're gonna have to change that in the next edition. But
Yeah, so that's interesting because the Ice-Free Corridor, was probably somewhere between marsh, peatland, permafrost. It wouldn't have been an easy trek.
No.
Let's put it that way.
it would have been cold as hell.
Yeah, it would have been cold as hell. It would have not have been an easy trek.
No, but
there would have been large volumes of meltwater, probably regular flash floods.
Yeah.
So it seems, I'm not saying that it was impossible, but it would have been challenging.
It would have been challenging, but life finds a way, right?
Life finds a way. But, the idea of the coastal migration, to me, seems to make more sense.
It makes more sense to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.